Hello, everybody, and welcome. It is that time of the year where I'm joined by my buddies JT, Johnny, and Josh to rank our games of 2024. What a big year! What a big year! A lot of diversity I think we're going to have this year in all of our lists and whatnot. But throwing over to Johnny first, just giving your thoughts on the entire year overall as a gamer. What did you think of this year of 2024?
2024 for me has been a little disappointing. Me personally, just don't feel like anything really stuck out and was like a bright shining light. There's a few that we'll get into, but overall, as a whole, I've actually been let down this year.
Yeah, I mean, you look at other prior years, like we had like Elden Ring or a new Legend of Zelda, where this year is definitely a little bit tempered. What about you, JT?
Uh, I mean, I have to echo the same points there. It's just not a huge year. It's just not. I
Hmm.
mean, the games that came out that I like are great and I love them, but it's not that many.
Hmm. Hmm. And Josh, do you agree with these guys? Do you feel like it was a pretty standard year, above average? What are you thinking?
I think it's a general consensus of the same feeling. It wasn't a lot of heavy swingers for like new titles. Like the games that came out, we enjoyed them, but it was definitely a lot of like DLCs that came out this year that were a lot of push for games to come back. Um, like I told you, like this month I can't even count it. I started playing Elden Ring, and I'm enjoying my playthrough of that for a first time experience. But for the end of the year, I couldn't classify that as a good as a game of like my year this year kind of thing.
Yeah, that's actually kind of where we're going to transition into. But I do agree with you guys. It could have been a stronger year, but I will say I wasn't bored this year. Like out of it was a. I feel like this year had a lot of latecomers to it. Like I was, playing Dragon Age and Indiana Jones and Call of Duty, so it was definitely stacked towards the end of the year rather than that middle section. What we're going to get into now, a lot of backlog for this year. I'll say that specifically for me. It's just like running through my list of games I played that didn't come out in 2024. Right, I started off things right with Dead Space remake. I know JT, Johnny, you guys are huge fans of this one. I played the original Dead Space when it came out. This one came out at the right at the end of 2023, so it almost could be like classified like a 2024 game in my eyes. Absolutely loved it. I think I even loved it more than the original version. Just seeing that on the Series X and just the ambiance and everything was amazing. Then after from that, I've had a huge year for me. It was like this Assassin's Creed year. I played through three Assassin's Creed games. I finally finished my playthrough of Valhalla. I know a lot of people have a lot to say about that game as far as bloat, and me and JT were talking about the power levels and different things you have in this game, which are, looking back, not the best mechanic to throw in a single player game. I will agree with that. But I played through not only Valhalla, but played through Mirage, which is a really quick 20-hour experience that also came out right at the tail end of 2023. So caught up on that one. Heck, I even dived into the Nexus Assassin's Creed game. Josh, I know you played that one as well, right?
Yep, yep. It was definitely a good experience for VRs. It definitely gave you that feeling of being the assassin, being Ezio Auditore.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And it was definitely like there was moments where I'm looking down and I have to remember I'm in VR because you got that vertigo feeling going once in a while. But being able to jump and hear that call of the eagle when you're jumping off was nostalgic.
That's the thing, right? Is VR? I was hoping it would catch on better, and it's because they don't have games like Assassin's Creed. There's a lot of gimmick games out there, but I feel like this, as well as the couple Star Wars games, and now they have the Batman VR game, which is really good.
Yep.
I don't have a Quest 3, I have a Quest 2, so I can't play the Batman
Um,
VR game, unfortunately.
Two games that did come out that I'm enjoying on my Quest were the Bulletstorm VR experience. Definitely goofy, fun, entertaining to just be like feel that true Borderlands badass. That's just like I can just do a lot of stuff. That's just make you go ooh. And then surprisingly enough, they actually did a Metro VR, the Metro Exodus
Mm.
games. They did a VR experience, and then I'm hesitant to do that because sometimes I get a little jump scared, and I'm afraid I'm gonna punch something in my house.
Yeah, you got to be careful. You got to have those sensors set up correctly. Just God forbid that you try to jump through the TV like my father almost did at one point. But Johnny, what about you? Had you played any games that came out the previous year in 2023 or even beforehand over the year?
So I got a Steam Deck recently,
Oh,
and thanks to that, I've been actually playing a lot of older games, not the newer ones. Been playing a lot of Warhammer Inquisitor,
hmm,
Martyr to be exact. It's a really cool. I don't know when it came out exactly, but it's a cool top-down
hmm.
dungeon crawler esque kind of game, a lot like Diablo in some ways, but different. Been playing a lot of that. Just realized that it's been a very long year. I forgot that Fallout came out this year, Fallout the
Yeah.
show. So naturally played a lot of Fallout 4. Um, and then Gunfire Reborn.
Hmm.
That's a that's a fun one that came out 2 years ago, 3 years ago, something like that. Play a lot of that, and again, that's all on my Steam Deck for the most part. That's got to be one of the best systems that I've bought in a long time.
Oh yeah, I'm going to Japan this April, and I'm really I was so
Okay.
close like last week or the week before of pulling the trigger on one. The only reason why I didn't because I'm like I don't know when they're announcing Switch 2. Like if Switch 2 comes out before April, like I'm buying that day one for the plane ride. But yeah, I mean all the reviews and stuff. I've been doing research on the Steam Deck and especially Steam Deck OLED. I'm like, ooh, this thing looks great, but I mean it is pricey. I'm also still
Worth
holding out.
every penny.
Okay. Yeah, especially with me because as a PC gamer, I have a huge Steam collection already, and I looked through my games and like most of my games would be able to be played on the Steam Deck. So the convenience factor is amazing. I'm hoping Xbox, comes out with their thing in the next couple of years and it holds a candle to the Steam Deck because such a cool piece of device that they've come out with.
It is.
Yeah, what about you, JT? What games you been playing that came out in the previous year or so?
Well, my um, my year is going to mirror Johnny's quite a bit. Again, with the Fallout TV show coming out this year. Fallout 4 is the game that I have the most hours in this year. Somehow, um, the number one, as Xbox tells me. Um, the other one would be Gunfire Reborn. We discovered that around the same time, and we actually started playing it on the Xbox when he got his Steam Deck shortly after I got mine, and peer pressured him into getting one. Um,
Hard to
we
say
got
no.
we got Gunfire on through Steam, where all of the DLCs are, because for whatever reason they're not on Xbox.
Hmm.
Um, and put even more hours into it on Steam Deck. I mean, according to Xbox, it's my second most played game, and that's not including my hours on Steam Deck.
Wow.
So, um, outside of that, uh, not a whole lot really as far as backlogs go.
Mm.
Um, I got a emulator up and running on the Steam Deck, so I've
Mm.
been going back and playing a lot of nostalgic games. You know,
Ah.
um, but outside of that, not much backlog.
Yeah, so what exactly is Gunfire Reborn? Because I've heard of it. I remember when it came out, it being, marketed and stuff, but I never actually played the game.
So, Gunfire Reborn is a first-person shooter roguelite dungeon crawler.
Hmm.
Um, you have multiple different characters. They're like little short, like chibi animal characters. You wouldn't expect us to be into a game like that, but the
Yeah.
shooting mechanics are very good and it's very fun. Um,
Oh.
the characters vary from being really easy and simple and having skills that harken back to like Borderlands 2. Like there's a dog that your special ability is you take out both of your guns and you shoot them at the same time. You know, there's a cat with the ability that he just stops people in this like orb of purple energy for a little while, just like Maya from
What?
Borderlands 2. You know, um, and the loot drops very similar to it. There's different, effects and elements and combinations of effects and everything. It it reminds me of those days back in Borderlands 2, just
Hmm.
grinding bosses and loot and just, but you're going for your perfect run. If you
Hmm.
don't if you don't see your favorite guns in the first, I don't know, few levels of a dungeon, it's probably not going to go well.
Okay. I mean, I'm a fan of looter shooters. That will not be the last time we mention looter shooters on this episode tonight. Um, but yeah, I mean, I might have to. Is that on Game Pass? Is that
It is not. I don't think it's a Game Pass game. It is on
okay?
Xbox, but being that you have PC, I would highly recommend you get it on Steam because that's where all the DLCs are.
Gotcha.
It adds 2 new characters per DLC. It adds new bosses into the dungeons, weapons, scrolls, which are like passive abilities that you slowly collect through the whole
Mm-hmm.
thing. It's like it's like Binding of Isaac, but first person shooter. And a
Oh,
little
okay.
bit a little bit looter shootery.
Very cool. I like the idea that it's tied behind the pets and all the different animals. That's definitely kind of like Pow World-esque, if you will. That's the first thing I thought of, which came out this year, if you could believe it, like in
Was
January.
this year? I forgot.
Yep.
Oh, you might have to redo your rankings while we're sitting here chatting games.
Oh,
Um,
nah. It was a flash in the pan for me.
yeah, I think for most people it was. What about you, Josh? What backlog games have you been playing? I know you've been talking to me about Elden Ring.
Yeah, my buddies, they've been helping me do a playthrough of it. They've been helping me, guiding me, because I have horrible direction skills when it comes to open exploration games. I get lost very easily and sidetracked very easily. But over the challenges of just playing the game and being able to have that frustration of this boss is starting to take me off, I'm gonna step away from it for a little bit. Next day, I come back and I defeat it in the first try. I'm like, what is the difference? What did I do? And they're just like, it's because you went and you emptied your mind of all emotion. I'm like, yes, yes, that's what I did. Um, I've also been doing a little bit more Armor Core because
Oh,
I like my mecha games. I enjoy being able to customize a mech and seeing how well I can do in a mission. Um, but
yes.
it's just been a nice little refresher of nostalgia, like when I think Johnny was saying, or JT. I'm sorry, but I'm terrible with names. Sorry. Um, they were mentioning about Borderlands. I'm like, I just recently did a full playthrough of Borderlands One, and I'm
Oh,
like, I just miss playing that nostalgia feeling of a good basic format of a looter shooter.
hmm. Yeah, so you're really caught on the From Software games right now. It sounds like between the Armored Core, Elden Ring, you'll probably jump into the DLC, I would imagine.
I'm on the DLC right now. Who did we beat? We beat Commander Gaius, who, uh, I hated him. I hated every fiber of his being.
Yeah, you got to love those tough games. I actually have one on my list. One of those kind of give you a hint of what's to come. But speaking of which, we're getting into our honorable mentions for the games this year. Games that didn't quite hit our list, but games that might have given us some things to think about, things that were highlights for us. So I'll throw it over to JT first on this one. What are your honorable mentions? You could just
Eh,
list them all out, then we'll just discuss them.
All right. Well, as we mentioned in passing just now, Pal World was quite fun for the month that I played it. But real honorable mentions. I'd have to throw it out to, Marvel Rivals for me.
Mmm.
you guys know more than anybody. I am not a fan of hero shooters. Um, I have nothing nice to say about Overwatch. Uh, but Marvel Rivals is fun. They're doing it right. It's free to play. I mean, I've heard nothing but good things, and I've experienced nothing but good things. Um, Gotta continue kind of on that multiplayer shooter side. Call of Duty for me, just from the hours put into it. Um, the uh, the ADHD fueled dopamine receptors from leveling up your guns and seeing things go flashing on the screen. That'll be up there in an honorable mention. A little bit better than the past few years. I've been enjoying it more than the three iterations of Modern Warfare, the new Modern Warfares. But kind of still par for the course for Call of Duty, so it doesn't quite make the cut. Um, as far as other honorable mentions, Black Myth Wukong
Oh.
on PlayStation 5. It's a very cool game, a very fun, you know, character action, you might say.
Mm-hmm.
Dips a little bit into the RPG, a little bit into like kind of the Sekiro-like sort
Mm.
of combat. Very unique, very cool setting. The Monkey God,
Yep.
and probably my last honorable mention I'll give to well, not the last runner-up. Indie, obviously, it's not making my main list just because it's not really itching anything for me right now. It's not what I'm looking for. It looks beautiful. It sounds beautiful. Um, the gameplay is fun. It's just not what I'm looking for at the moment. I'm sure I will hit some sort of phase in the next couple months where I sit down and I play through the whole thing.
Yeah, just
It's just getting lost in the world and listening to John Williams soundscapes and looking at everything. Um, my actual last honorable mention I'll give to Stalker 2. Uh, Very cool game. The original games are cool, hard to play through. I tried playing through them. It takes a very, very niche uh, drive to get through those games. But I'd say it is a game of the year contender after maybe a year of updates and patches because, I
mm-hmm.
mean, if we're going to be honest, any game that comes out of Europe is going to need an extra year of updates to be
Mm.
functional. Um, it's a term that a lot of people like to call Eurojank. I know I mentioned that in chat a few weeks ago, and it was the first time you ever heard of it. Eurojank is a thing. Yes, Cyberpunk launched
Yeah.
bad, but everybody seems to forget that so did The Witcher 1 and The Witcher 2 and The Witcher 3. Cyberpunk did not launch much worse than any of those, and Stalker 2 is kind of on the same page there. It's really cool. It's really fun. Um, I've recorded some 30-second clips of things going absolutely wild in that game, but give it another year and it'll probably be much more stable and playable.
Yeah, I played the game for all of 2 hours and I died like 20 times already. So I was like, ah, man, I'll come back to this. I'll come back to this on a rainy day when I have all these other games done. Then I can try to put some time because I do admit, like I could see why this could be a game of the year, but kind of like what you said about indie, I'm like, yeah, I can see this, but it's not the right time for me to play through something like this right now. But I could see myself getting into it. I just have to be in the right mindset to be like, okay, I have to go really slow, methodical, It looks cool. I like the story. Everything about it is really cool. As far as indie though, and I don't know if Johnny got this far because I was telling you guys in the chat saying like once you get past the Egypt part, it goes some freaking crazy places, and I can almost guarantee like once you get past that in that area, you're not gonna want to put the game down, kind of thing. Because that's basically what happened with me. I'm like, I'm gonna beeline every other game, and or beeline this game beyond every other game I'm playing right now. I know, Josh, that you played a little bit of Marvel Rivals, and I think you're also in agreement with JT that's a pretty fun game, right?
Yeah, it's definitely an interesting concept and a high tier roster of players.
Mm-hmm.
But I definitely do think it's just like how like Overwatch is. It definitely needs a lot of tuning, a lot of rebalancing with certain characters. I do think that they also need to take a look at what they classify certain characters, because it definitely feels like when I'm playing a tank, I'm not really being a tank.
Yeah.
It feels like I'm definitely being outshotted by certain characters, i.e., Iron Fist.
Yep. But
No one expects Iron Fist.
yeah.
No one ever expects
Can't
Iron
run.
Fist.
Can't run. The man flies.
Yeah.
The Iron Fist's melee attacks lock on to you. They lock on. So he just keeps hitting and hitting and hitting, and you're not getting away.
Mm-hmm. 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 Yeah. So what about you, Johnny? What are your honorable mentions for 2024?
Some honorable mentions I have that are a little bit different from the gang here. I got one called Turnip Boy Robs a Bank. Um, it's on Game Pass. It is a roguelite game where you play as a turnip and you are robbing a bank. Um, so every time you replay the heist, you get more money, you can get better weapons, get some better skills, and you can get further into the bank, fight different bosses and whatnot. It's a very fun game. It's on the Game Pass. Highly recommend it.
Mm-hmm.
I've put quite a few hours into that already. I can't believe no one mentioned the Battlefront remake. I know that came. I know that was a little bit of a rough release.
Oh no.
But that is definitely an honorable mention for me because it got a little bit better, and even online aside, playing the single player is fun. I was able to play through the original Battlefront 1 and 2 campaign, and I had a blast doing it. It was a trip down memory lane. So that definitely gets a shout out at the very least. 7 Days to Die is one that I wanted to mention. It's not really my kind of game, but it's been a game that's been on the market out there for quite some time now. They finally came out with their 1.0 version, which is a big deal. And I just thought that was something that was impressive. I did check out the game a little bit. It's not my style of gameplay, so it's just not going to be a game of the year or anything like that. But wanted to just bring praise to them for that, for achieving that, the 1.0. And then Little Kitty Big City.
I heard of this. I heard of this game.
That is a game that's on Game Pass. It's an indie game. You play as a little cat, and you have to get back to your house at the top of this like apartment building. But it's a very cute game. My girlfriend's the one who convinced me into trying it out, and we ended up beating the game in a day. We just
Whoa.
couldn't put it down. It was just fun, whether you're tripping humans or chasing birds or whatnot. It was just a cute little game. And then Stalker 2. That's an honorable mention for me.
Really? I thought this
Yeah,
would be
that
your
did
top
not
three
make a
for
top
sure.
list
Oh
for
man.
me. There's just too many bugs. There are too
Okay.
many issues with it. The main problem I have is the A-life for the game, which is just the AI intelligence and how it actually plays out. The enemies will spawn like 20 meters behind you. They'll be right on top of you. There's no A-life to the game. It's currently broken, or actually, let me rephrase that. They just came out with a patch to fix it. I have not played the game. in a while, so I haven't checked it out yet, but it just wasn't what I was expecting, so it's not a game of the year for me, but it definitely wasn't a bad game either. So yeah, those are my honorable mentions.
Yeah, so diving into what you play a lot of is you leverage your Game Pass subscription because I mean that's the cool thing about Game Pass, right? Is you have these like little indie games that you would never really know or want to maybe spend money on, but then you play them and you're enjoying the heck out of them, going like, wow, this had a lot of heart. This was a pretty wholesome experience. Because it's not made by, the AAA development studio. A lot of these indie games are the ones that kind of push the big guys, the big publishers out there to actually implement and iterate more. Because lately, I think that's one of the criticisms is we're seeing a lot of sequels, a lot of remakes. Where's like all the originality, right? So that's where the indies really come into play. They kind of push the industry forward more than a lot of the other things. Yeah, Battlefront, I thought I could forget about that experience because I was so angry. I really wanted to love this game. I was so pumped. I was like, yeah, we're getting a real thing I could play on this on the Xbox Series. The thing it didn't even have inverted look like option. I couldn't play the game. I had to get a refund within 2 hours. So this is ridiculous. How do you ship a game in 2024 and just go, oh, we forgot to put in the inverted look option, and there was like a bunch of other issues. So I still don't own the game because it was just Aspir. I mean, they do good stuff, but sometimes it's just like, guys, what are you doing over there? And I'm happy because they were originally going to do the Knights of the Republic remake. I'm like, yeah, these guys don't have the stuff to do that game. If they can't even make a proper port, how are they going to do a remake of one of the best games of all time? Like, get them far away. No offense, get them far away from that property. But Stalker 2, I'm really surprised that you didn't have that higher up. But yeah, I totally understand why. I think like JT is right on the money, saying like this could be a really good game like a year from now. I might even revisit it myself when people say it's good. I still haven't gone back to Cyberpunk, and the craziest thing was the Cyberpunk 2070. They just put out another update like a month ago that puts like a whole new spin on the cars. Like there's like this whole new system where you can like paint the cars if you're, I guess, a wanted level, and the cops won't even realize that you're the same car because you redo it. And then you could have like Johnny Silverhand now like talking in the passenger seat. I don't know any of this because I still haven't really played the game for longer than an hour, but I just feel like I keep winning when it comes to that game. But yeah, does anybody else have any comments on his list here? Johnny's list?
I feel like Battlefront Collection could have hit a lot better for a lot of people. One, if it worked like a normal game when it first came out. Two, I don't understand why Asper, even EA, well, no, I understand with EA, but somehow these developers, these publishers, just have not put two and two together that all us Battlefront fans want is to be able to play Galactic Conquest with each other online co-op.
Oh,
But they
that's
won't
not in the
give it to
game?
us. But they won't give it to us.
Oh, wow.
That's all the game needed. It would have been my game of the year if I could hop on Galactic Conquest online with Johnny and you and crush the rebel scum, destroy all clankers.
Hey, that's the hard R. Careful there, buddy.
That's all it needed. It would be game of the year well beyond any other thing that came out this year.
Yep.
They refused to give it to us.
Oh, man. That is true. Where we want something simple. That's all we want. We're not asking for a lot. Well, I would still love a Battlefront 3, but that's still beside the point. I don't know if that'll ever happen. Who knows? What about you, Josh? What's your honorable mentions for 2024?
Marvel Rivals was definitely one of them. Another one. It's a little bit of a kids game, but it's called the Plucky Squire.
Oh no, I heard of this. I heard good things
It
about this one.
is it is a childlike Zelda, and for somebody that didn't play Zelda, I know, crucify me. Um, I thoroughly enjoyed like the experience of what it would have been like to play a Zelda-like game because it is a down screen play game, but it's off of a book. All the characters are paper made and drawn as if they were coming to life from a kid's book. So it was definitely a fun experience, fun little storytelling. It's definitely like a family fun game. Like if you were just getting your kids involved into a game, I definitely say give them that. It's definitely a good little fun start for them. Um, Now switching gears to a different game, First Descendant.
Ooh, here we
When
go.
when that first came out, I was all over it. I enjoyed it. I thought it was a fun little challenging game. I definitely did think that it was lacking luster at first, but the developers are listening to the community. They are understanding where to increase the game's potential for end game difficulty, finding that goodwill balance. There are some cases where you have your hardcore gamers that are like, we want difficulty. But to
Hmm.
the other side, it's like, we can't make it too difficult or we lose players on the other side of the spectrum. But they find that middle ground where they just released a update to
Hmm.
have what's called the Abyss Watcher. He is level 150 for a character, and he's not hard to defeat in a squad, but he's also able to be done and dealt with by a solo player.
Hmm.
But you really need to make sure that your skills are available, your builds are on the right tune, you got the right stuff to even do that, because your goal is to beat him in like a subpart of like a 2 to 3 minute timer, or
Hmm.
else he's just gonna keep regenerating and he's gonna just come after you like a bull. But it's definitely would have been game of the year for me if it wasn't for how heavy the microtransactions are. Now
Hmm.
they have been good. They have been good with that. They did give refunds based on community feedback for calibers and stuff like that. So I would like to definitely see where this game leads going into the future with the developers and the community and seeing what they do to make the game better.
Hmm.
Isn't it? Isn't that free to play?
It is also a free to play. It's probably one of the better free to play shooters that I have played. I wouldn't be surprised if next year for the Game Awards that comes up for community based alongside Warframe, because it does.
Hmm.
Like I said, they do listen to the community feedback. They do hear what the players want and where they do need speed. Because they haven't nerfed any characters. The only things that they've done with character based is if a character's ability is acting in a way that it really shouldn't be. Like he's doing like excessive amount of damage without even applying mods to reach that point.
Hmm. Yeah. So how does First Ascendant? Do you think that First Ascendant holds true to a game like Destiny? I know you've put hundreds, if not thousands, of hours in a Destiny. Where how do they stack up?
Hmm. I mean, in a sense of the way the games are meant to be played, I definitely do feel First Ascendant has a better communication when it comes to the stuff that the players need and or want. Because right now, with Destiny as it is, they are shifting gears into, well, into the next trilogy of the DLC.
Hmm.
Everybody is keeping an eye on that to seeing where are we going, what are your next steps. Bungie
Hmm.
doesn't have the best track record when it comes to open communication. Rightfully so. There have been problems in the past when they've said stuff and they kind of peeled back because of X, Y, and Z intervellers. Um, but Destiny is still a game to this day that I can say if you haven't played it and you are looking for a good fantasy storytelling from point A to B and you just want to play the game with your friends, it's a good community. You will definitely make friends along the way playing this game. You will
Hmm.
find essentially your Destiny family, your crew that you can be like, hey, I need help. Oh, I got you. Let's do a raid. I'm on board. So it's definitely has its good fan base community, but I definitely do think um, Destiny can take a few pages as far as open
Hmm.
communication and understanding where the game can be a little bit more difficult, but not difficult to the point where it's easy peasy lemon squeezy.
Hmm. Gotcha. Gotcha. Any other honorable mentions, Josh?
Nope. I'm pretty much set my 3.
All right, and that leaves me. I'm gonna bring one up now. I know most of us would think honorable mentions would be like, oh, these are all some of the best games we played this year. I want to lead off with one that just disappointed the heck out of me. I know we don't have a category really like the worst game of the year, but I got to give it to Suicide Squad: Kill the Justice League as the first game. I got suckered into paying for the freaking $100 version of this game, and
Yep,
it's
I
now
remember.
down to like $2.99 or some crap like that. I mean, what went wrong? Rocksteady, like one of the up until now one of the best like studios for an IP. Like, I mean, come on, the Arkham series is just incredible. Like everybody, not nobody can say a bad word about that series. It's one of the best superhero stories ever. Blah blah blah. It's just it deserves all the accolades. And then these guys come out with. Obviously, Warner Brothers had something to do with like, let's just make a live service game like Destiny to print money, and it just doesn't work that easy, guys. Like, the writing was on the wall, but I didn't want to believe it. And well, I got burned for it because it is the most mediocre, time-consuming game that has no invention in itself over and over again. It's just disappointing to see something that actually has a level of polish. Like when you look at the game, like the gunplay and stuff, it actually works pretty well. It's just the mission design and the variety is just absolutely crap. Like, how do you have like 3 different objectives that you're repeating for a 15-hour campaign over and over again, and then you get into the storyline, and it's just like crapping the bed with all your favorite characters essentially. It's a miracle that Warner Brothers stuck to their word and completed the years-long DLC content roadmap because they literally did what they were going to do. And they even added an offline mode in. So I do have to give them props for not being like PlayStation with Concord and pulling the plug after 2 weeks because that was also super brutal to see that happening.
Too soon.
And they're coming out with Johnny. I know you've been watching some of the Prime Video, like little vignettes of the video games. They have a
They're coming
Concord
out
one
with that episode still. I saw that. I was talking to JT about it. That's bold. They're sticking to their guns. I'd be almost insulted if I bought that game and spent money on it, and then they
Yep.
pulled it, and they still come. They gotta just drop it entirely at this point.
So there, I want to open up my honorable mentions with that because I'm still burned by that. I'll never let that down. But jumping off of Johnny's point with a classic Star Wars game. Now, as much as I am lukewarm when it comes to Aspyr as a developer for remasters, man, oh man, I gotta give ultimate props. And I have never heard of this studio before this game, but Night Dive Studios put them on the map because these guys know what the heck they're doing because they came out with the Dark Forces remaster. And this thing is almost like a remake in a way, simply because they've gone into the code of the game itself and actually implemented like vertical aiming, and they've redone like a lot of the sound effects. Like they actually gone into the code and tweaked it, like modifying the game completely. Because before this was an old like game from like 1992 or 3 or something like that, where it was like the regular Doom or Wolfenstein, like from id Software, like you could only aim horizontally. Like if there was a guy up on, if there was a stormtrooper up here, you would fire like towards him, but then the bullet would like travel upwards. It would go like this and then up. Now you can actually like look up in the game and it's more 3D. So absolutely cool stuff. I think they did a remake. They did like multiple remasters this year for other huge franchises. I think they did like Quake 2 or Quake 3 and a couple other games. So yeah, Lucasfilm hire these guys to do more of your remasters because they kick ass. They also had the Bounty Hunter. Aspyr did the Bounty Hunter remaster. I thought that was way better than the Battlefront one that they did. Although I was getting aggravated because there are certain levels that are just really, they seem unfair. And maybe it's my technique or whatever, but I was like, come on, you guys couldn't like change how the respawn system in this game works a little bit. But other than that, it was a huge year for me when it comes to these like games I've been playing for years, these ongoing games, such as World of Warcraft, starting off a brand new trilogy with The War Within, the World Breaker trilogy, which is just they added in a lot more as the going trend for these ongoing games, Josh, is that they're adding in stuff for players to do solo as well as multiplayer. So they've added in these solo little things called delves, which reward you with good loot. That was the big thing is the delves, but the storytelling, like I almost shed a tear during one of the cutscenes. Like there's a really gripping story now. And it's just a beautiful game to look at. All like it's been 20 years. I got to tell you guys, it's been 20 years for World of Warcraft. I can't believe it. I was playing on the classic server they released, hardcore. So if you die, your character gets erased. So I didn't get far with that, and it was really fun playing WoW this year for the expansion for the 20th year anniversary. So mad props to that. Also from Blizzard, I know Josh, you might have a few things to say about this one. Because I don't know if Johnny or JT played it, but the Diablo 4 expansion was really, really good too. I mean, adding in a new class, adding in mercenaries. Me and Josh, we went through this new co-op thing that they got. It's like a raid almost, which is really fun with clever mechanics. Really,
Yep.
really enjoyed this. I know, Josh, you have some things to say about this. Spiritborn class. So the Spiritborn class, freaking awesome. It feels like you're picking like two or three classes you're playing through at once. It's awesome.
Yeah, no, definitely for sure. From A to B of the story, it was definitely hard. I wouldn't say hard jerking. It was definitely more of that concern for the character when we left her off.
Yep.
It was definitely that like I want to help her, I want to protect her, and at every turn, every angle of the story, you just think it's like, man, the world is just out to get me, and then you just end up making this very broken character that's just like, nah, I'm just him. Let me clear this room out, and there was definitely like a lot of builds for the Spirit Born, and I think that they toned down because I'm pretty sure one of the builds was just affecting a lot of client-based sides, and it
Mm-hmm.
was just making the game lag for a lot of
Yep.
people. So I think
Yep.
they had to tone down how often the effect was. The build was still broken to all get out, but it wasn't as bad. And then like you know me, once I'm done once I've had a feel of a character, I move on to another character, make a
Yeah.
different build and all that. Barbarian was definitely having a lot of fun with how like a lot of bleeds, a lot, which is something I really wanted to do. I was like, I just want to be able to poke an enemy, watch him spurt out like a fountain, and then collapse. Um, but it's definitely the expansion. I think this expansion was definitely a good step
Oh yeah.
in the direction. I would definitely like to see them do something for seasons. I definitely feel like seasons are getting a little bit repetitive, just like
Hmm.
any other game that comes out with a season. But having that breath of fresh air where it's like, here's an expansion, here's new stuff to go for, here's new enemies, new builds, and it was definitely like a good burner for October going into the other months of other DLCs that were coming out.
Yeah, what I gotta say to Blizzard is mad props again with this studio because they were listening to player feedback and acting on it pretty quickly, like just making different modifications from the launch back in the previous June, I think it came out. Like they every update, every season added in complete revamps of the game's mechanics, which really just went a long way. With I know there were some people that didn't play the game since vanilla. They jumped in the expansion. They're like, "Oh my gosh, this game is almost like a new game." Like there's so many things implemented. And it's just awesome to see the studio really being quick on their feet with like, okay, we got to tune this or we got to tune that, but they're not taking power from the player, which is great. Like I have this broken Spiritborn build. I guess we both did or whatever. It just going just clearing rooms like in sec. It feels good. It feels like you're a god. I mean, that's part of the fun of being a gamer is that feeling like godlike powers, just going and destroying stuff is always a good time. So yeah, there was that. Destiny 2, a great send
Mm-hmm.
off to the last decade worth of content. Played that quite a bit. With this expansion, man, this expansion was really, really good. I think, the final shape, it adds like a whole new way to play the game with prismatic build. Has amazing moments like Avengers tier like story points where you're like, whoa, what is happening here? The unique destination of the Pale Heart was something really, really cool. So I'm looking forward to seeing what comes next, but I'm also like I don't know how it's gonna be. The future is uncertain because as much as it was great to see the success, there was a lot of turmoil at that studio at Bungie this year. So
Yep.
who knows what the heck is gonna happen?
Uh, I agree with you. The Final Shape DLC was definitely a good send-off note on the, what was it, the 10-year journey that we were on from vanilla launch to now. And like I told you during our sessions at work, I like doing raids. I was in there. I was sweat, blooding, and crying my tears out trying to get this stuff done. And then being able to actually complete it, having that final, oh my god, I did it, was like
Ooh,
an epiphany.
wow.
And
Yeah,
then
yep.
being able to see the next day where Bungie was like, all right, we had our first raid clear. Let's show you what's actually at the end. And it's just Zavala doing a rally banner saying, like, we are done running away. It is our time to push back. And being able to see him just channel that old Zavala focus of being, I need to do what's right and rally the friends and the family that I have made along the way and end this journey with the witness and being able to see our guardian going in there with a fire team of 12 other guardians, the first ever 12-man
Yup.
activity ever, by the way, and being just seeing all these guardians popping off supers, popping off grenades with prismatic, and just seeing everyone come together on a final fight, and just seeing the send off of those that we did lose during the fight, and being able to see what's going forward, like you said, everyone's waiting to see where this story leads. It definitely needs to be something of like they're making huge promises of like Rise of Iron stuff going on in the next year. So I definitely think with how much they're hyping it up, I think people are definitely looking and paying attention and having their ears to the ground, being like, "All right, you're promising us all this. Where are you taking us?"
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I still have three more guys. Hold on a second.
Oh my lord, the
I
dude's got a longer list than everybody.
played a lot of games this year. Let me say I played double the amount of games that I played last year. I just looked it up because I put it on Twitter. I document, at least put it this way, I document the single player story games I finished. I didn't count Marvel Rivals and maybe a couple other multiplayer games on there. But who played Hellblade 2? Did anybody play Hellblade 2 this year? No? Okay, so what I will say is it's a beautiful game. Beautiful game. If you want to see like how the Series X basically reaches its full potential on Unreal Engine 5, the latest and greatest, like this game will shock you. It's one of those things where you're like playing and then you're watching a movie and then like nothing's happening and you push forward on the stick and your character moves and you're like, oh my gosh, this is gameplay. Wait, what the hell is happening? Now the story was nothing like the gameplay is nothing to write home about. It's only like a 6 hour game too. So it's basically something that you can like show your friend or your family member, like, hey, like check out what gaming looks like in 2024. And you turn this game on and play for a few minutes, and they're like, oh my gosh, look at the moss on the rock, look at the wrinkles in her face, and look at like all the little pores in her face, like all this like really nitty gritty detail. So it works almost like a tech demo, but it was worth mentioning because the sound design's really good. The graphics really push the envelope when it comes to what I've seen in gaming this year. So, Star Wars Outlaws was another game I want to mention. I really enjoyed my time with it, but I was hoping for a little bit more from the story. That's the one thing that held me back. Gameplay was a little bit dumb as well. I gotta admit, like the shooting mechanics, everything seemed way too easy. The stormtroopers were way too easy to shoot down. Even putting on a higher difficulty, it was probably still going to be a ridiculously easy game. Um, but it was fun to play around in an open Star Wars sandbox, getting in a ship, going down to a planet seamlessly, doing little missions here and there, running around. So there's a lot of promise for that game. I know there's another DLC coming out. The one's already out. It was a lot of fun, short and sweet. But we'll see. We'll see if KVS will appear in like a live action show at some point or something with like an animated series. I don't know what the future holds for that series. And that's where it leads me to my next game. I was really trying to fit this into my top three somehow, but I just couldn't in my own head, in my own way. I'm looking at this. At least you guys could do whatever you want when you rank your games. But I was like, I have to finish a game completely, or at least a story, to make it one of my top three games of the year. and that is Dragon Age: The Veilguard. Didn't finish the game. Last I looked, I was playing today. I'm 35 hours in, and I don't think I'm anywhere close to beating the game. So I just couldn't put this in my top three. But as a hardcore BioWare fan from the days of Knights of the Republic, I will say I'm really, really enjoying this game. It would probably be on my number two or number one if I finished the game today. It's up there because the character relationships you have, the combat. I love the combat. I even wanted to start the game three different times to play the warrior, the rogue, and the mage, and they all play drastically different, and they're all just as fun from all that I've played. The character customization is absolutely insane. Probably the best character customization I might have ever seen in a game. The hair physics, everybody always talks about that with this game, looks absolutely incredible. A game is heavy in lore when they have a freaking glossary. So you better believe I've been reading all the notes, getting my head into the world of Thetis, in all these different regions, really been loving how these characters have different backstories. And it really feels, at least so far in the game, it's a good old BioWare RPG. I know I don't think Josh has played Baldur's Gate 3. But
No.
I know from what people have told me, if you played Baldur's Gate 3, then you played Dragon Age. Dragon Age doesn't hold a candle to Baldur's Gate 3 because apparently Baldur's Gate 3 did such a great job with the choices now that it's going to be almost impossible for an RPG to ever be as open-ended as a game like Baldur's Gate 3. So, but since I haven't played that game, I guess it's ignorance is bliss because I'm over here thinking like, oh, I didn't save Minrathous, so now Nev is pissed off at me and she'll never romance me again because I left her people to basically die. She's not going to forget that. She won't even heal me anymore. She lost her ability to freaking heal me in the party because that's how much she hates me. So like little things like that, I'm like, oh, Bioware, they got the sauce, man. Like these guys, even though they probably are a different team from back in the day with Mass Effect 2, it still has the kind of detail, the depth I'm looking for. The world looks beautiful. I'm playing it on PC, so I can't really say enough good things. But I just can't put it in my top three for me personally, just because I haven't finished the story entirely. It could take a dive like Mass Effect 3 story, and then I could be like, well, this game absolutely sucked or something. So that is it for honorable mentions. But we are now going to get into our top three, and we'll go around the same order. So number three for JT, what's it going to be?
So here's where I start my rule breaking. My number three is currently a PlayStation 5 exclusive. No, it's on PC as well. Developed by Bloober Team, published by Konami.
Oh, I know it.
Silent Hill 2 Remake.
Oh,
This game is so good, so scary. I've had this game since launch. I've put hours and hours into this game, and I'm not even out of the Blue Creek apartments. That's how scared I am while I play this game. Every hallway that I walk down that I hear that radio static come up, I get chills down my spine, and I have to open my map because that's my safety blanket in every horror game. It's just this. I don't know if I'd say better, but this is a Resident Evil 2 remake tier remake. This is a Dead Space remake tier remake. It is very good. It is very scary, creepy. Not really jump scares. Silent Hill isn't about the jump scares. Silent Hill is about the tone. Silent Hill is about making you feel uncomfortable and unsettled. And it does that nonstop. It somehow has better voice acting and interaction between the few characters that are in the game. while maintaining the awkwardness of those interactions from the original game. The original Silent Hill 2, they literally pulled people off the streets to voice these characters. Um, that's why they didn't sound like real, like, that's why they didn't sound like real voice actors, because they weren't. Um, it's just, it's really good. Um, I gauge a horror game, um, and it's another survival horror, uh, in the same, you have your inventory, you're doing Resident Evil type stuff in it. It's just creepier and less about the combat and more about the puzzles and, you know, being creeped out. I judge horror games, pure horror games, based on my ability to get through them without being terrified. And if I can't, it's good. So this is really good.
So, what is the big revamp with the remake? Now, do they change the control scheme or like what's the, obviously you said they changed the voice acting. So really like the highlights of like why this had to be a remake over the other, like what improvements?
Well, this one is the remake over the other ones because Pyramid Head. Silent Hill 2 is the game with Pyramid Head. Um,
Oh, I've seen girls walk. That's the creepy girl, right? I've seen people at the conventions wearing that thing, I believe.
Pyramid Head is not a girl in the game, though girls like to do the cosplay.
Gotcha.
It's the guy with the big triangle head.
Hmm.
Um, but he's like the movies are not accurate. He is not in Heather Mason's story. He is James's villain, whatever, in Silent Hill 2, um, which has nothing to do with the other two games, 1 and 3. Um, it goes from, I mean, all those games back in the late 90s, early 2000s were, fixed camera, tank controls.
Hmm.
This does the same thing that the Resident Evil remakes have done
Oh.
with the third person over the shoulder.
Hmm.
Um, it's the map is mostly like the layout of Silent Hill itself is mostly the same, but the inside, the guts of it all is a little bit different and mixed around just so you're not playing the exact same thing.
Hmm.
Similar I mean it's similar to what, again, Resident Evil did. Um but there's little moments that you'll be going through like the Woodside apartment, and you'll walk into, say, a room number that in the original version of the game there was a puzzle in that room.
Hmm.
That's not the puzzle that you're trying to do anymore, but they will have like the broken piece of furniture or whatever, like chest or cabinet or whatever.
Hmm.
Like the old original puzzle that was there will be broken and there, and when you see it, like, you'll get like a little staticky flash on the screen, like it glitches a little bit.
Oh.
And that's just as a nod to the people who played the originals, that like, hey, remember? So, um, and I mean, the combat is much more, fluid,
Hmm.
right? I mean, it does all the same stuff that the Resident Evil remakes did, but it's in Silent Hill, you know.
Wow. Yeah, Bluebird Team. I played their game from 2021, the Medium. Uh, right in their wheelhouse, survival horror. It also had going to. Are you guys there?
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Sorry,
Yep.
I thought I lagged for a second. It had like this idea with the Series X and S, like it had the processing power to like render two separate games at once, like it split the screen in half. Then like you were doing something on one screen, it would reflect on the other screen. So they're doing some pretty cool stuff there. So it's awesome to hear that these guys are making something of this caliber because I did hear from a lot of other people like, yeah, Silent Hill 2. A lot of people are like, this is my game of the year. I'm like, oh wow, like this is crazy. Like 2 years in a row, we have big survival horror remakes that are at the top of people's lists. So awesome to see.
I'm surprised, and you can correct me if I'm wrong. I didn't see it go up for any of the game awards this year. I could be wrong. I could have missed it.
I think I
And
had one or two of them. It did. Yeah, one or two of them. It did.
I'm actually surprised.
It might have been sound or something. To that
Oh,
degree.
there's the cat.
There we go. The cat's there just in time
Yeah,
for
makes a
Johnny's
guest
number
appearance.
three. There we go. Time for your number three, man.
All right. So my number three would be Indiana Jones. I actually enjoyed that way more than I thought I would. I grew up on the indie movies, so naturally I was gonna check out the game. But as I mentioned to you guys in our group chat, what I've realized is this game is scratching the itch for the action adventure exploring type game that I didn't know I've been wanting again. I'm a big Tomb Raider fan,
Okay.
so this has actually been making me want to replay those games because I find a lot of similarities with how the games play. The music's great. I mean, the cutscenes are all phenomenal. It's like watching an Indiana Jones movie. I mean, my God, the voice actor, I don't know his name, I
Troy Baker.
apologize, but sounds just like Harrison Ford. He's doing a phenomenal job at that. So overall, it's been a great game. I'm at the Himalayas right now, so this is where you say it starts to get really good. I can't imagine it getting any better than how it was in Egypt. So
Oh,
I mean, I'm
that's
I'm excited for this part of the game, but definitely number three for me.
Oh yeah, I can't say enough good things about Indiana Jones.
Yeah, I mean, the exploring how many like collectibles there are, they actually make
Yeah.
it fun to get all those collectibles.
So, what do you think about the designers making you play in first person? How'd you feel about the first person perspective rather than like Tomb Raider with third person?
I was skeptical at first about how that was going to play with the whip and being Indiana Jones, but I actually like the way it is. The combat's really nice. I enjoy using the whip in
Mm-hmm.
combat. I mean, my God, I have yet to use a gun in that game.
Yeah.
The way you just beat people up and the countering their attacks and everything, it's a lot of fun.
It's so much
The
fun.
stealth.
Yeah, and what about? I know you're a huge fan of Wolfenstein, so there's definitely Wolfenstein DNA in this game from Machine Games. So, you want
You
to
can
talk a
feel
little
it
bit
a
about?
little bit.
Little bit. Yeah, a little bit, especially when you get to the area after the Himalayas, like the next
Okay.
spot. That's when it really hits. Like, oh, this almost feels like Wolfenstein right now. That's some
Interesting.
seriously cool stuff. But yeah, I love what you also had mentioned about the gun thing. Like, I pulled out the gun just to shoot it for the heck of it, but I never really felt the need to be like, I need to use this gun at all times. And that's not Indiana Jones. It's not his character. Like he uses the gun when he absolutely needs to, like in Raiders of the Lost Ark or something. But as far as it feeling like the movie, you hit the nail on the head with the voice acting and the way that the scenes are blocked out, the music, like JT was mentioning, just everything comes around full circle with that game. It really does.
I
Yeah.
will I will interject that it is very cool to have a game in that Tomb Raider Uncharted genre that is first person
Mhm.
and that does feel more grounded and like I don't want to say realistic, but it feels like you're playing as an actual person
Mhm.
and not like like an action movie like action figure, you know.
Yeah, yeah, and it makes you use your brain. The puzzles, I like them. The puzzles are not like, oh my gosh, I can't. I have to go. You know, I can't figure this out. Like there, you think about it long enough, you'll figure it out. But they are fun and they're satisfying when you figure out. You're like, oh yeah, I feel good. At least I was like, yeah, I feel good about myself right now. I solved this little puzzle. And they're pacing. The pace of them is really good throughout the game. What about you, Josh? What's your number 3?
My number three's got to be Space Marine. I definitely wasn't a fan. I wasn't too enthralled with it like everybody else was. But as I started watching videos and more people talking about it, I'm like, you know what? I got some spare change around. I'll buy it. I'll give it a whirl. When it first launched for the PlayStation, it had a lot of bugs, but once they got that steamed out and figured out for connection-based problems, I was actually able to sit down with my friends and actually enjoy my playthrough for both the campaign, the operations, and even a little bit of multiplayer. It was definitely a fun little aspect to be able to be this Goliath of a human tank just charging down and just clearing out waves of enemies in the most brutal way fashionable and just learning about the lore of the world that I'm playing in. So it was definitely a good new experience to be like, I have never experienced any type of games like this before of this world. So it was definitely a good footstep in. I wouldn't say I'm going to be a fanatic and start collecting little minifigures and books and stuff because I know lore in that caliber is like you can fill a library with that kind of
Oh
stuff.
yeah.
Um, but overall, my experience with the game and still being able to see that the community and the developing team still saying, "Oh no, we're not done yet," because everyone was afraid that this was just going to be it, and now we won't see another Space Marine game till they come out with a like Space Marine 3 or whatever. But they're like, "No, we have a roadmap. We have more in the chamber. We have more updates coming out." I know a lot of things was like they want to see more cosmetic capabilities with certain armor sets, more characters to play as. I know that the developers were definitely saying we're looking into it, we're definitely developing, don't worry. So it's definitely a good game to put you on your list and pick up and play and just have a good time hoarding down enemies in the hoarder.
Yeah, so it seems like you have a lot of different options to play in this game, whether it be like story, multiplayer, co-op, operations. Like that's what I often look for. My number 3 is going to fall into that category of like a game that feels like it's really packed to the brim with a lot of value for the money you pay for it, right? So, talking about all that, I know we got a Warhammer head. I mean, come on here. Like, he's got the banner behind him. I know you have something to say about this game more than I have much to say, because I'm the only one here who hasn't played the game yet.
Oh,
Few
come on, man. What you
things.
doing?
Trust me, we tried. We
I
tried.
will play it eventually, probably this upcoming year. I'm just packed with other games. As you heard my list, my honorable mentions was like 10 games long.
He just knows once he starts playing it, he won't be able to stop. That's all.
Exactly. I agree. I
Probably.
agree.
No, that's honestly
You won't
like
have
I
you
played.
won't have time for anything else.
Hey man,
I would love to be there for him to do a multiplayer match and then being petrified of a guy coming at him at mock speeds with a hammer.
I have this closet right in front of me. I have an entire like plastic container of Ultramarines that I painted from 2002. So I am the person that they're targeting this game for. I just haven't dived in yet because yes, I know I will be hooked. But
Playing hard to get.
but yeah, I mean, what do you guys want to say about this? I have a feeling we're going to be talking about it very soon again, but you could say a little thing here and there.
I think since he mentioned it, the multiplayer, that's a big thing. I mean, we could dive deeper into it later. Because I'm going to bring it up again. But the multiplayer, they did a really good job with the player versus player multiplayer. I do not play those kind of games anymore. I just rather play co-op or single player. But I have caught myself a few nights jumping on a few matches, just soloing a PvP team deathmatch or whatever it may be. Um, I don't know if it's just the carefree of there's no ranked or skill based matchmaking, so maybe that is just something we might need to go back to have more
Oh
casual
yeah.
games.
Agreed.
But that's been a big thing I enjoy a lot about the game.
Yes. Space Marines PvP multiplayer is no hold barred random. There is no skill based matchmaking. There is
Oh,
nothing. It is truly random matchmaking, and it's great.
oh wow, okay. So you have just a bunch of Marines, like nobody's playing aliens at that point, right? It's just Marines versus Marines, or what is it like?
So it's your loyalist versus the traitors. So it's
The Chaos?
Ultramarines, your Blood Ravens, Blood Angels,
Oh,
Salamanders versus the
ooh,
Chaos forces.
ooh.
Yeah, so there's not much customization when it comes to Chaos.
Mm-hmm.
There's rumors that there will be more in the future. Fingers crossed. But that's what the PvP is, at least. So you can actually play as a Night Lord or a World Eater, which is pretty cool because they look awesome. The voice lines are great. Their weapons look just like they should. It did a really good job with it, and I just want more of that content, the PvP content even.
Mm-hmm.
That's one thing it lacks on. I think there's only 3 maps still, so they definitely need to throw at least another 2 in. Game modes, I'm fine with the 3, maybe a 4th one here at some point. But, they got Team Deathmatch, Domination, and then, what's the third one, JT? It's kind of like a domination that the spawn
Uh,
point moves around throughout,
yeah, it's
like
like
headquarters.
a King of the Hill headquarters kind of. Yeah.
All right. Yeah. Well, I mean, it was such a success that I'm sure, as Josh was alluding to, like they're going to keep that game going for at least a year as far as like content and all that. So, and the cool thing is Saber Interactive did the game. I don't know if Saber Interactive ever really put out their own game because I know they're more of a support studio. Josh, I think they are working hand in hand with Destiny at some point, right? With Bungie, the making Destiny content, or am I thinking of like Halo? It might have been Halo they're working on at some
Um,
point. They've been around for a bit. They're usually just like working hand in hand with another developer, though.
I do believe you are correct. But well, like you said, it's hard to tell because I can't really remember. But they were definitely part of like a lot of other studios in helping out and making stuff, other things. Um, I do think that they did a game, and my buddy Dodd would kill me if I didn't remember this. I think it was called Mud Runner because I know Snow, and there was also Snow Runner. It was the same people that did Snow Runner because there was a lot of hidden cosmetics alluding to Space Marines and other decals. So I do think that they do make other games. I just don't think it's well versed
Hmm.
into like the genres that a lot of people play, i.e., looter shooters, horrors, and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
I could be wrong here, but World War Z, wasn't
Yes,
that them?
yes,
Yep.
yes, you are absolutely
Um,
correct.
and there's a lot of similarities with that. The giant hordes coming at you,
Mm.
Yeah,
obviously.
yes.
You could see that in Space Marines.
Awesome. So getting to my number three, it's also a multiplayer game, and I can't believe I'm going to say this, but Call of Duty Black Ops 6 is my number three. I've been out of the picture for a while. I gotta admit, I last checked, the last Call of Duty game I played was in 2012, I think. So I was long overdue. But as I was alluding to with Josh with Space Marine, is like looking at this game as the full picture. Like this thing delivered, whether it be zombies having a blast playing co-op with people at home with different things or online, and then because they had split screen co-op, so it's like me and my girlfriend would be just playing on the. I was like, this brings me back to the 360 days playing co-op zombies. It's a blast, split screen, and then going into multiplayer, right? Playing through like again, like if I played other Call of Duties in the last couple of years, maybe I wouldn't have this so high on my list. But I guess part of me is just like so happy to be back with this franchise because like all of us, I dumped hours and hours of like into that franchise much earlier in its lifespan. But the story, more than anything, oh my gosh, that campaign is amazing. It's nothing short of amazing for me. I think what they did with that campaign, again, I haven't played the recent ones other than this one, but what I can judge this one by itself is say, story was awesome. It was like Mission Impossible, James Bond. Not every single level was run and gun. They had multiple avenues of pursuing different challenges. Like you have this safe house where you can go around, solve puzzles, unlock different upgrades or weapons you could then used in single player. They were experimenting. I think Raven Studios is the one that does the single player for these with Treyarch, but they were able to put in um, like an open world level, a lot of stealth missions that you could go around. So just the flexibility, like you can go through a whole mission without killing anybody essentially and beat it that way, or just go run and gun like, oh crap, I screwed up. Oh, I'm gonna just blow everybody away. So you could simply play as you wanted to. The cutscenes, the way that the characters looked was fantastic. Some of the best looking character animations I've seen yet. And a really thrilling conclusion. I mean, this thing, it was a lot longer from what I imagined. The normal Call of Duty campaigns are like 5 or 6 hours I usually hear about, but this one took me a good 10 hours. So it really felt like the pacing with the way the levels were never felt like you were doing the same thing more than once. Locales, like being, going and storming like Saddam Hussein's palace and crazy stuff like this happening in this game. Seeing Bill Clinton at like a rally, like all these random things, but again, you're feeling like you're Tom Cruise and Ethan Hawke or whatever in not Ethan Hawke, but the character in Mission Impossible or James Bond. It really felt like that. I love like that 90s tone, especially. As a kid born in the 90s, hearing some, Nine Inch Nails, seeing the clothing, seeing just how these people were acting was a kind of a cool nostalgia hit. So when you factor that in with great multiplayer, with zombies, even Warzone, which technically isn't part of this game, has been fun jumping into. Yeah, this is my number three,
Ac-
surprisingly.
Actually, yeah, no, that threw me for a curveball when you said that you were playing Call of Duty as much as you did. I was like, you don't picture me as a Call of Duty guy. Um, but in one of the missions for the story, it was when you're going down for you're supposed to be fanning out for some type of bioweapon. Um,
Hmm.
Near the end of that mission, if you can remember, or maybe if you go back and you try to listen to it, there is an Easter egg where when the final boss spawns for the mission,
Hmm.
they play the original 115 zombie theme song very slightly. And when I heard it, I was like, "There's no way that they put this in here." I gotta give it to that when you're saying with the campaign. Like I enjoyed that little hidden factor.
Yeah, see, I don't know the game nearly enough to know exact music tracks or anything like
Oh,
that.
they were like some of the bangers for like the songs. Like you had that, you had "Beauty of Annihilation" is another good one. So it's just being able to find these music songs back in the zombie days it was kind of fun.
Yeah, I know, JT, you were playing Call of Duty quite a bit this year. Do you have anything to say to that about how this year stacks up to previous years?
Um, Skill-based matchmaking is still terrible.
Agreed.
Um, I play, I do good in one game, and then all of a sudden I'm playing against MLG. Um, uh, I'm 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 5 months away from being 30 years old. I don't want to try that hard. I work all day, every day. I get home. I just want to mindlessly shoot at people and see my gun levels go up. Like that. I something needs to be done about that.
I
So,
agree. I feel you. I feel you.
but I mean, they get you the way they get you. There's you get a little dopamine hit every time you level up a weapon, every time your level goes up in general.
Hmm.
Uh, One cool thing that they did finally is they went as far as the multiplayer weapons camos go. Um, they went back to headshots only being what unlocks the camos. For the past few games, it's just been just get kills with the gun,
Oh,
and
okay.
you'll unlock the camos. Which it doesn't. It's a lot easier, but it doesn't feel as rewarding. You know, um, like getting those camos through headshots only is really like, oh, you're slightly better
Hmm.
at shooting. Um,
Jesus.
But there's a whole separate tree of camos for every single gun that you unlock through playing just zombies.
Mm.
And you can use either camo in either one, but you
Mm-hmm.
can only, you know. So there's a lot that they put into it. I mean, it's still Call of Duty. You're still going to run into the same frustrations that you do every year, but
Gotcha.
um, it's giving me the dopamine hits right now. So
There we go.
Zombies has been great for the Call of Duty. I don't play much of the multiplayer, but
Yeah.
Zombies, they really hit the marker. They really hit the nail on the head with that one. It's just
yeah,
it feels right. Everything, the different maps definitely have different feels to it. So, if I want to actually, like JT said, just come home, just relax, just mindlessly shoot things and watch the bright lights on the screen flash up for the dopamine, I could do that. Or if I want to try hard, go for high rounds, or actually have fun, I can go for a different map and get a totally different feel. So the zombies for me has been the biggest selling point for this one.
There
I
we go.
will I will say that this is the first time that I've been decently invested into the zombies since Black Ops 1.
Whoa.
I dabbled a little bit in Black Ops 3 after the lifespan of Black Ops 3 because of the Origins map packs. It brought back all of the most of the original maps from World at War and Black Ops 1, and that's where my nostalgia is. Um, but yeah, this is the most I've enjoyed zombies since Black Ops 1.
Yeah. There you go. There you go. Speaking of dopamine hits, what gives you dopamine hits for your rank number 2, JT?
My rank number 2 for Democracy, for Super Earth, Helldivers 2. Um, I'll admit there was a rough patch there. I don't know why in a game that's only PvE, they have to go and nerf weapons or nerf anything at all. But they came back from that. You started off, you had the Terminids and you had the Automatons.
Wait, really?
Um,
They call them Terminids?
yeah,
That's
it's not the,
crazy. They're so
it's
close
not
to saying Tyranids, but they're not. And
it's
they're basically
it's
the same
close,
thing.
but it's close, but they're not. And they've recently just added the Illuminate back into the game. Not back into the game. They were a third enemy faction back in the first game
Hmm.
that they've finally introduced into Helldivers 2. I mean, it's the at least playing against playing Terminid missions. It's the Starship Troopers fantasy. I mean, you just drop on a planet with a bunch of with three other friends. You got, you got your loadout of weapons, and you're the only good bug is a dead bug. Um, and I mean, it's the stratagems are really cool. Um, you have stratagems that they're like they're like your you know air support that you call down essentially. There's ones that are static and are linked to each mission that you'll have use of no matter what, and then you have all the ones that you can unlock and you can kit yourself out, coordinate with your other teammates, all bring different stuff, based on, what planet you're on, what enemies you're fighting, what the mission is. But it's, you're playing and it's really cool. Like you hold down your left bumper button or L1 if you're playing on PlayStation with a PlayStation controller. And it's like a little mini game that you're trying to play while you're playing a crazy third person shooter because you got to pull out this little pad and then you're typing in like directional button codes to call down, you're calling down your heavy weapon, you're calling down an airstrike, you're calling down, you know um, like automated turrets and whatnot, and you're trying to do this while hordes of enemies are chasing you and shooting at you. And It's a fun time. It can get stressful on those higher difficulties. It can get stressful when you're playing with people that, are trying to grief you and are just, killing all your teammates because friendly fire
What?
is on. Um, yeah, friendly fire is on at all times. Don't walk in front of someone while they're shooting because you're dead. And there's a limited amount of respawns,
Oh,
and it's a shared pool. It's one of those stratagems that you call down. So when one of the teammates dies, they drop all their stuff. You have to pull out the the redeploy stratagem, and then you throw the beacon, and they drop where you throw them. Um, so ideally, you want to try to throw them somewhere safe, or if you want and you want to get squirrely, you can throw them at, say, a Bile Titan, and they can drop their drop pod through the Bile Titan and kill it.
ah.
Um, it's it's a pretty fun experience. It's more fun with friends than it is with randoms, but sometimes randoms is all you got. But
So, what's the big difference between? Did you play the first game? Because I heard they're drastically different games.
I have not played the first game, but I've seen the first game. The first game is it's like it's from an isometric camera
Mm-hmm.
angle, similar to that of Diablo,
Mm-hmm.
and the shooting wasn't really, you would walk around, you move with your left analog stick and you
Mm-hmm.
just spin your right analog stick in a circle, right?
Oh,
Just
okay.
change the direction, that sort of, those sort of controls. Um, so it's drastically different. This is full on over the shoulder, third person.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and they've added a lot of things in. They added, like mech suits that you can drop down,
Whoa.
get in. They just recently added like just a straight up like vehicle, like truck that you can call down and drive around in. Um, yeah, it's great. It's great. Um, yeah.
Yeah. Do you think that they would ever like? How do they continue the game? Are they going to come out with expansions? Do you think they'll come out with a sequel?
Um, it's an ongoing game. So another thing I could touch on is it has battle passes.
Hmm.
Um, but the way they work is they're not timed. So every few weeks, maybe every month, there might be like 9 or 10 of them now, but they'll release what is essentially a battle pass. That battle pass will have more weapons, cosmetics, new passive boosters to equip to your guy, um, more currency for unlocking everything. You know, but those battle passes never go away. So I guess it's kind of like similar to how Halo Infinite's battle
Mm-hmm.
passes are,
Yep.
right? Like they're all there, they're all permanent. You can unlock them however you want, however you please. I think what Master Chief Collection is doing did the same thing with that. Um, so they're not trying to get you with the FOMO, like say a game like Overwatch would do, where it's timed and once that battle pass is over, all that stuff is gone, and you can't get it, right? But this, you can play at your own pace, unlock things at your own pace. The stuff's not going to go away, you
Mm-hmm.
know.
And it's off to Johnny. What's your number two?
Oh, my number two is gonna piggyback off of JT. Mine is also Helldivers 2.
I had a
Funny
feeling.
enough,
I had a feeling.
um, it's a great game. I mean, he touched on all the great points that make the game shine. Outside of one key thing that he forgot to mention, and the game is just so damn cinematic. There's no
It
cutscenes or
is.
anything like that. But when you're calling in all those stratagems and you got bug limbs flying all about or whatnot, it's just cinematic. Walking. I don't know if he's played against the Squid People yet,
I
but when
have.
you're
I have.
landing on those planets in these like towns,
Hmm.
it's very creepy, eerie feeling walking down them before the fighting really starts. So they do a great job at the atmosphere and everything like that, and they listen. They listen to feedback from the players and everything like that. They're engaged with the community, and those are things I think a lot of people just don't do anymore. So when you hear about someone that does do that, engage with their community, definitely draws my attention at the very least. But man, is it a lot of fun to play. We don't play that much, him and I, but I've been doing a lot of just online playing with that, randoms, whatnot. It's not as fun as playing with a buddy, yes, but the randoms, you can really hold it down. This is the first time I'm playing online using a mic, talking with other
Oh
people,
wow.
So hats off to them for making such a great game.
Are you playing on Steam Deck?
I play it on my Steam Deck, yeah.
Oh, interesting. And the performance
Yep,
is
I
pretty
We
keep
good on there?
that, switch
yeah
it over to
we
desktop mode,
mhm.
and I play on mouse and keyboard. Every now and again, I'll play it handheld, but it doesn't play that great. It
Oh.
drains the battery out of it,
Oh, okay.
so it's better docked.
Mm. And you play on PS5, JT?
Yes, and it is cross-platform. I have other friends that play on PC that I've played with, and we when he first started playing it, we played together a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, we
Um,
did a few missions.
yeah, but there's one point that we both forgot to bring up. I don't know if Johnny knows this, but I do. There is one guy behind the scenes that is making the tactical decisions of the enemy factions in response to how the community does with like the major orders and how we're doing like liberating planets and that sort of things.
I didn't know
So
that.
Hmm.
I
yeah,
do.
so they watch how we're doing on the map, right? Because it's a whole community effort. It's a whole galaxy, with three different enemy factions now, and there's always a major order. And the major order is like this it's like this community effort. If we succeed in the major order, then everybody gets the rewards from the major order. And it gives you the most like medals and whatnot, which you use to spend in the battle pass to unlock all those other things. Um, so it's really a back and forth like between the developers and the community.
Mm-hmm.
Like they'll put out a major order, they'll watch how the community responds, what planets we're going to, how quickly or slowly we're liberating or taking over a planet
Mm-hmm.
or defending a planet, and then they'll make tweaks to what
Wow.
planet the enemy is attacking and what the enemies are doing in response to what the community does.
That's absolutely insane. I mean, I heard about this. That definitely puts it up there with one of the games of the year because up until now, like nothing else has really experimented that heavily with. I mean, we always a lot of time we hear that like, oh yeah, back especially a couple years ago, like this was a pie in the sky thing. Like I feel like some developers promised it, but it never really came to fruition. Whereas now with Helldivers 2, I mean, what is the developer again behind this game?
Uh, I
I don't know.
Yeah, I'm
forget
not I'm
the
not sure.
name.
Arrowhead. Arrowhead.
Arrowhead.
Arrowhead.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
The way
Arrowhead.
that Arrowhead is able to put social media as a way to change the trajectory of the game itself is such a cool idea that really goes outside of the gaming sphere and to be able to influence the players by how they're responding is something that I didn't know we would find in our lifetime. Honestly, that seems so freaking difficult to do, and also like props to Arrowhead and I guess Sony as well for one of the first games that's a Sony published game to drop on PC day and date with the PS5 and the console because Xbox has been doing this for years now. And so a guy like me could actually jump in tonight and play this game if I wanted to because all you need is
Good.
Steam. So
Yeah.
You
that's
should.
that's awesome. So more of that, especially when it comes to multiplayer games. Nothing should be exclusive of multiplayer games. Like everybody should be able to play with their friends, cross play, cross progression, have a good time. There shouldn't be this walled garden anymore when it comes, especially with like the multiplayer games, I feel like.
What's also funny is that Arrowhead is actually a very small independent studio. They don't have the crew force of like a AAA developer team.
Wow.
So being able to see this development team put out a game like this and win an award this year for best multiplayer really just sets the bar for all these other competitors that are like they did something that we struggle at, which is make a decent game that people always want to come back to and enjoy with their friends. Like I agree with everybody here. Like it's something that's missed. Like just being able to pick up a controller and be like, Chris, let's jump on and play this game. All right, I'm down. Let's see if the other two guys. Oh yeah, let's get them in. And it's just that game just creates funny, chaotic memories because like they were saying, it friendly fire's on. I can't tell you how many times I've accidentally pulled the trigger at the wrong moment
Ooh.
and killed my teammate. And they're like, my bad. I'm like, yeah, don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. And it's like, and everything in that game can kill you. Like the new vehicle. If you get out too early and somebody's in that bumper, guess what? They're going underneath the vehicle. If somebody's near that mech that's stomping, they're getting squashed. If somebody, the number one thing that I always hate, and I can't stop it because it's like you can't control it. When somebody is about to throw a stratagem and they die, that stratagem is active and will be dropped at that location. So if somebody's dropping a orbital strike, you are running as fast and as far as you can before that thing hits you. Or else you're going bye-bye.
Ooh, that sounds so fun, actually. What's your number two? What's your number two, Josh?
Surprisingly, as like I said, as much as I enjoy Helldivers with my friends and everything, I actually enjoyed another Souls-like game, Stellar Blade.
Oh,
Was that
Stellar,
this year?
I believe
Yep.
so.
Oh yeah, it was.
I think it came out in March.
Yeah. April.
April. Damn, I was a month short.
I played that too. That would have been in my honorable mentions had I remembered.
Well, luckily for me, it's my number two because when the game came out, I was on it. I was on it, playing it because the level design, the atmosphere, the colors of the game really just gave it that vibrant feel of you're playing in a world where humanity is struggling to survive against these creatures, and you're playing what's called what was her name? I forget her name, but they call her an angel essentially because she comes down in a ship from Earth or from the sky, and the boss fights were definitely not easy. It was definitely you had to break the boss's shield to do a significant amount of damage, and it was definitely a high octane fight to be able to dodge, to parry in, to go out, and popping these abilities to being able to jump from above an enemy, do a fatal strike to kill them in an instant, to having different avenues of an ending. You had 3 different endings that you could choose from based on your, if you like did 100% of the side quests, you had like a really good ending. Or if you only did a certain amount, you got to choose between the middle group or the worst possible outcome. So it was definitely a fun game to sit down, play, explore, because once in an area, it was only, this is your zone. Between here and here, you can explore this entire zone. It's not like Elden Ring, where it's like
okay.
this entire area you can explore. It's more condensed, and I can enjoy that because it's like now I have a focal point. I know where I'm going. I know how to get there. I've explored it. Now it's like, where can I go? It's like, oh, I can go up, or I can go left. I can go right.
That's
And the
yeah.
music, the the soundtrack alone for some of these bosses and the worlds were just really really good and memorable for me. Um, and I'm really hoping that I see them add more to the game because they did at the beginning. They did not have a camera mode for a lot of people, which a lot of people wanted to do to make screenshots, to take background
Oh
photos for
yeah.
their computer and everything else. They
Especially with
added
a
that
game
in.
like that. With a character
Right,
like
with
that.
well, we won't talk about that. We all know the reason why certain people play the game. But they also added in like a boss rush. Like I can't tell you how much I like. Even in Elden Ring, I want to have a boss rush to where I can like it's like okay, maybe I don't feel like going back and fighting this boss or starting a new game just to fight this boss. I can go back and do normal story or hard mode and just pick a boss and be rewarded if I can complete every boss. Granted, I'm missing one secret boss, so unfortunately for me, I have to do a new playthrough and find that secret boss. But Stellar Blade, I wasn't surprised this year when Blade was in the running for I forget what category it was in, but it was definitely worth like a good playable game, being able to pick it up and enjoy what was there.
Hmm. Yeah, not every game needs to be a big 100-hour open world experience, and Dragon Age is definitely not open world. It's a long game, but I appreciate it. It's not you go into zones and you explore them. Just it sounds like kind of like Stellar Blade in that design front. How is the combat itself in the game, Josh?
The combat definitely felt more along the lines of the Dark Souls genre, where it's like if you don't time it right, if you can't dodge, it will come at you. It will catch you off guard. But it's also really, really rewarding if you can catch the moment that boss is coming at you, that enemy's coming at you, and you can just parry him to do a super good stab, or get an ability off that stuns them, so that way you can get a combo in. It's really punishing and rewarding based on how good your reaction speeds can be.
Mm-hmm.
Now, sometimes you don't always have to parry. If it's like if you're not ready to parry and you can get that dodge off, they give you a perfect dodge, which allows you to even get that extra step away before the boss is able to get a next
Mm.
swing in. So it gives you that safety net where it's like, okay, I dodged it, and now I can see this next attack coming in. Or if it's a normal enemy and you perfect dodge it, you can dodge it, and as he's still going through his
Mm-hmm.
motion, you
Mm-hmm.
come in and counteract him,
Oh.
and he gets stunned. So it's a lot of like you have to make sure you have your wits about you. You know where this enemy's at.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
If you let enemies like gang up on you, you're definitely in a fight to survive.
Mm.
Um, and like I said, one of the bosses that I liked, I forget what, because they all have unique names, but it was like on top of like an orbital space station for like the rich at the time,
Mm.
and she was supposed to be like this Japanese shrine maiden, and she was really heavy on projectiles. So I really had to. It was a high, like I said, high octane reaction, get in, get out, and being able to do what I can within a small window before
Mm-hmm.
having to reset and regroup.
No, I love that. I mean, that game it looks really fun. It looks really fun. I don't know if it'd be my type of game because I'm not the biggest Souls like the guy that, and
Mm-hmm.
Jedi Survivor, Jedi Fallen Order are like the closest to um until I get to my number two, which is also an action game. Surprise, and that is the Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown. One of the first games that came out in this year, January, and it got quickly forgotten, unfortunately. Ubisoft, I don't know what they fumbled the release of this game because not enough people knew about it. Even the gaming community out there, the people that played it shouted from the rooftops, "This game is awesome! Go play it!" And but really, what it comes down to is this is a Metroidvania game. This not like Sands of Time, which is still being remade, I believe, but it's actually like the original Prince of Persia, which is like that rotoscoped, like side-scrolling Metroidvania game. This is basically that. Super flashy, love the cel-shaded graphics. A pretty simple, straightforward story. I will say, like the story is probably like the least favorite thing of me for the game. What I get drawn to the game for is just the mechanics. Is as you were mentioning, Josh, it is a more of a difficult game in that you have to parry, dodge. As you progress through the game, it's that classic video game thing of, oh, you're getting stronger. You feel like you're becoming literally a god. And you are defeating these bosses and feeling like the man. Like you defeat these bosses, and they are multi-phase fights where there is no like checkpoint in the middle. I'm pretty sure it's like everyone you would have to start over again. So you beat those bosses, and it's like, oh my goodness, is this hard? But it has like really good accessibility options in the game where you can change a lot of different difficulty things and all that. They have a nice feature too. Since it is Metrovania, you can you're gonna have to go back to a lot of places that you've already been to. So you could do like these like in-game screenshots of different places where you're like, oh, I think I'll have to come back here later because there's nothing I could do now to get to this barrier. And then you go back later, 3 or 4 hours later, like, oh, I have that thing, and that's where I remember it was right here. So like they have really cool like quality of life enhancements for games like these. The last good game I played like this was an original Xbox One game called Ori and the Blind Forest and the sequel Ori and the Will of the Wisp. Some of my favorite side scroll platformers. I mean, I grew up on these type of games going back to the Super Nintendo with Donkey Kong Country and Aladdin and all these other games like that. So for me, this is kind of like coming home, but it's also pretty fun because like you're going around, you have different abilities, different weapons, and the bosses are just really cool. Like every boss feels completely different, different kind of mechanics. This is a damn good video game at its core. You know, this when you think of a video game, you're sitting down, kind of getting frustrated at certain points, but then you feel like a freaking king when you get past the boss you've been trying to fight for like 30 minutes straight. So, I don't know if any of you played this game, if these kind of games are up to your, liking with these side scrollers. But yeah, that's my number two.
Gone are the Prince of Persia days of blurry gameplay FMVs with Godsmack playing in the background. Miss those days.
And no,
Oh,
actually,
man.
I went to Walmart one day with my buddy Dov, and I actually found Prince of Persia at like $20. I'm like, you know what? For $20, I'll buy it. I'll sit down and play it at some point. Can't wait to get to
Nice.
do it.
There we go. There we go. All right. This is it. We're getting to our number ones, and I already know what two of the hosts are going to say, but we're going to do it anyway. So over to you, JT.
For the Emperor, Space
Emperor!
Marines 2. It
Why?
Space well man. Space Marines 2 is the entire industry needs to pay attention to what they did and how they're continuing to support this game. Space Marines 2 is the most consistently solid, at least solid game across all three of its game modes. The campaign is great. Operations are great. The multiplayer PvP, while chaotic at times, is great. The gameplay is. I know. There's a lot of people that kind of brushed it off, saying that the Gears of War nostalgia. It is the furthest thing from that. If you try to play it like a 360 era cover shooter, you will have no ammo and you will be dead in the water. This game heavily focuses on melee combat, on perfect dodging and perfect parrying and follow-up attacks.
You want to stay in the action at all times. That's the whole
Oh.
point. Yeah.
It has a similar it has a I forget what the it has a similar rallying your health function that Bloodborne did, where if you get hit, you want to stay in there and hit them back, and it will refill as much as you can of that health that you just lost. It really wants you to stay in the action. Um, Again, with perfect parries, perfect dodge, follow up attacks, and there's plenty of perks and abilities that rely on you doing that in order to get the benefit of those perks
Oh my
and
gosh.
upgrades.
Sounds so good.
So it is very much more than a shooter. Um, it toes the line between like character action and shooter.
Mm-hmm.
Because I mean, each melee weapon has you know not crazy different combos. There's only one melee button, but there's different patterns of hitting the melee button and like delays and dodging and you tap it once and then you hold it. You tap it a few times and
Okay.
then you hold it. It has a different um, end to the melee chain, if you will. Um, and I mean, it's a Space Marines game. Even you said it. You have all your minis from what 2002. You said. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
if you want to relive that without dumping all the money into actual miniatures, this is the game to do it. This game is it's just the drip and just it's so cool.
What's
Uh,
Yeah, what's like the scale when you're playing in a campaign? Are there like legions of space marines? Like
no, well,
legions of enemies? Like it seems like there's a lot of enemies on screen. That's pretty cool.
there are a lot of enemies on screen as you're going through the campaign, and I think maybe some parts of operations there will be like regular not space marine soldiers that you're like
Ooh.
there in support of you know um but for the most part you're kind of
Mm-hmm.
your own little squad going
Mm-hmm.
off to do these special missions.
Awesome.
And then what the operations actually are a secondary squad that is working in conjunction at the same time
Hmm.
in those same missions.
Oh, okay.
So there, if you play story mission operation, story mission 2, operation 2, story mission 3, operation
Oh,
3, the stories are happening like
that's
simultaneously,
cool.
and you're actually, you'll fight bosses in the operations that you don't see
Hmm.
in the main game. You'll see enemy types in both that you don't see in the other, you know. So that's actually a really neat feature going between the two.
Hmm. Johnny.
Um,
Oh, go ahead. I'll let you finish.
yeah, and then between the operations and the multiplayer, you have how many different classes in it? Like 5 or 6 different classes.
6, I believe.
6.
Uh, tac- Tactical, assault, vanguard, bulwark, sniper, heavy. Yeah, 6 different classes, and they are tweaked and balanced differently between operations and multiplayer. So they don't play exactly the same, but similar.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I find it hilarious for the assault class. The assault class is the one with the jump, like with the big jump pack
Mm-hmm.
that you can like crash down with the hammer.
Oh.
Um, in operations, there is a vertical limit to how high you can jump with the jump pack, but in PvP multiplayer, there is not. So in multiplayer, you'll just be going about your business, and this big old space marine will just come out of the sky like a comet and crash down on you. But in operations, you jump like I don't know,
Hmm.
10 feet there. I, I think something got mixed up in the code. I feel like it should be balanced opposite of that. But it's nothing. It's not. It's nothing against the game. I just think it's funny.
Mhm.
Um, but yeah, that's what I have to say about it.
And Johnny, what do you have to say about Space Marine 2? What's your number one game of the year, I wonder?
My number one is very clearly Space Marines. I everything JT really said. It's such a bro game. Just this has been the year of humans versus Xenos. The best games have been just a bunch of guys getting together and killing some bugs. And they just did it great. You know the way the combat is, how you take down the enemies, true 40k. In true 40k nature, you know, it's just bloody and violent nonstop. Um, Before this game came out, I wasn't aware of the 40k universe or anything like that, but this game has just ignited a spark in me. Just gotta get more content of this any way possible. So I think that's something that's impressive. That Games Workshop was able to do is I'm sure the revenue is just coming in from their minis and everything thanks to this game too. And like Josh said, you know, I've heard that there's supposed to be a long roadmap with the game, so lots of support with it, with various different chapters, with the drip and everything. The game has just been a blast. And, you know, it's only operations, only 8 missions or something like that. But they have an AI director, so you know you might fight the mini boss at the beginning of the
Oh,
mission one time, and then at the end a different time. It keeps it a little
cool.
different. Um, the way the co-op works, I mean, I could just talk about this game for hours. The way the co-op works with the classes, every class works a little bit differently with each other, with the perks and everything. You can really get some great, solid teamwork builds going. The community is just all friendly. It has been a great game. I really want to see more like this. I'd love to see more Warhammer stuff, but definitely more stuff that takes inspiration from this kind of game.
Yeah, because the thing is with Warhammer 40K, I'm going all the way back to the times of renting video games from Blockbuster, because the first Games Workshop Warhammer 40K game I ever knew about, I think it must have been on the original Xbox, because it was around the time I was into the miniatures, and it was the Tau Firewalker game. It's a game where it's a first-person shooter playing like a Tau little guy. They look like Destiny clone people, kind of like they look like a guardian with like the one spotlight eye thing, and you're
Yeah,
going
yeah.
around. But ever since then, like there's been a lot of games. I think the biggest Games Workshops games have been the Dawn of War series, which I just was able to redeem the second game for nothing off of being a Prime subscriber. So
Nice.
if you guys are, they have the Dawn of War 2 is up there. I believe it's Dawn of War 2. But it was that one. Then there's this Vermintide game, which I think is the Warhammer Fantasy. So they have
That's
like,
fantasy,
yeah.
Yeah,
so a
that's
little
the
different.
Sigmar. Yeah.
So and
Yeah.
then they have the one you're playing, the Inquisitor one or whatever it is. So they have all they're branching out like Lucasfilm and Star Wars with all these different games, but this is like their Jedi series. It seems like where this one really was a home run. Uh, are there any representations of Razorback vehicles or Whirlwinds or Land Raiders or anything in the game?
There's some vehicles in it, nothing that you're driving,
Exactly. You might see
unfortunately.
like in the background or something riding by.
There are some
Oh,
vehicles, you
cool.
know, towards the end of the game. Uh, you see some dreadnoughts and stuff like that, which
Oh,
are
nice.
awesome.
What about
Um,
Terminators? Can you play as a Terminator?
no, no, so they are in the game,
Okay.
but you don't play as one or anything like that. they're a real pain in the butt as an enemy, but the character models is awesome. The level of detail they went into with everything about it. Games Workshop is very protective about their IP.
Mm-hmm.
Everything needs to be lore accurate, so they had a heavy hand in overlooking everything to make sure it
Mm-hmm.
was how it should be,
Yep.
and it really paid off for them.
Damn. Yeah, I'm gonna have to prioritize Space Marine sooner than later. The thing is, I have like all these long duration games, like 80-hour games, 100-hour games, but this seems like it's a good game to play where it's like a good, what is the story? What, like 8 hours long or something like that? This could be a good game to get
Roughly.
into
Yeah.
as like a shorter experience, like kind of get me out of the headspace of doing these gigantic open world games. Because like I still got to dive into Cyberpunk next year, but maybe I'll play this before that or something.
You should.
So this thought just hit me now because I've just been, again, what you said with that, just contemplating why two prominent games, Helldivers 2 and Space Marines 2, are doing so well just with, broing out. Um, Playing these games and outside of playing through the campaign, but like playing operations with your buddies, going on hell dives with your buddies. Um, this is the closest that we millennials have felt since childhood of just getting your getting your army guys and action figures out and
Hmm.
just like pretending that you're just in this huge battle with whatever, you know. Um, so maybe it's that sort of nostalgia. That's definitely a little bit of it, but they are phenomenally made games.
Hmm.
But it's definitely I think games need to start going back to being games for this, just make them more video gamey. Stop trying to be so realistic. Stop trying to get to the, next level of, overdone graphics.
Hmm.
Um, Stop trying to dive too deep, too much into, too much story,
Hmm.
Like we just want fun video games, man.
Yeah. No, that's
You
That's
can
the.
it.
tell that there's heart behind the game, that they
Yeah.
care about it. It's not just a money grab. Oh, here's a
Mhm.
popular IP. Let's make a game out of it and bring in all the money. They care about the product.
Hmm.
And like they were saying with Helldivers too, with the battle passes and all that, you don't have to spend any actual money. You can get in-game currency by playing the missions. You
Hmm.
can
Yeah.
find them by just playing the game, and I definitely feel like that's getting away
Yeah.
in a good way from what these battle pass setups are. Where
Hmm.
it's like, why do we have to? It's like if you want to spend money, sure, you have that choice to do so,
Yeah.
but you don't have to. And like they were saying, they stick around. So it's like maybe you don't want to go with this one that just came out. Maybe you want to do the old one. Maybe you want to finish up two other ones before you go for the newest one. And I definitely feel like they were to touch back up on feeling the heart of the developers into the games. When you know a developer puts the time, the effort, the care into it, you can see it. You can know that this game was actually thought out and made the right way before it was put out. Like going back to the Cyberpunk launch, it was very rushed. It was a very bad launch because the game developers said like we weren't done. Oh, we just want to put it out anyway. Just put it out. And look what happened. It got a bad rep. Yeah, people played it, but it wasn't good enough to keep it sustained in that initial play.
Hmm.
And then all the quality of life came out. Then the DLC came out. And now look at it. People are enjoying the living godhood out of it. because developers actually took their time and
Mm-hmm.
had that time to actually work out everything. I definitely feel like if developers had the time, had the and the fan bases had that patience, because sometimes the fan base are like they want this information now, they want to do this now, this, that, and the third, but it takes time to do everything well enough to the point where it won't break itself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like back like once again back with the Space Marine launch, a lot of console players couldn't connect and couldn't play long enough because it's like it happened to me. My friends would be in a match. I'm
Mm.
still loading. I'm still in the ship in an infinite loading screen,
Mm.
and that hurt me a little bit because I was like I want to play this game with my friends and I couldn't do so. But once it worked, once it got ironed out, the game became so much more enjoyable, so much able to just be with the broing out essentially, and just enjoying that factor of I'm playing a game with my friends.
Yeah. You said it nicely, man. You said it nicely. By the way, what's your game of the year, Josh?
My game of the year is not a old one; it is a ongoing one that had a DLC drop in the summer. Final Fantasy Dawn Trail.
Oh, wow.
The expansion. This is a whole new story arc. This is we're just like how Destiny was. They're done with the light and the dark. We are now in a place called Tuyola, and it is a new frontier essentially to us. We're
Hmm.
in their world. We don't know the rules and what we're supposed to do here. We're an outsider helping in through the looking glass essentially.
Mm-hmm.
But the story, the components, are so there to just be enthralled. Like a lot of times, I don't like to read a whole bunch. It's like let me see the key points here. But when you hear the audio come in, then that's when it's like okay, I need to pay attention. And when you pay attention, it's that oh my god moment. Like I did not see this coming, or it's like maybe one of your characters is just hurt or having
Mm-hmm.
trauma, and it's like I really feel for them. It was also just being able to see the two new characters, like you and I were talking about when we went to dinner the one day. Seeing two new classes come out, being able to play them, enjoy them, and everything else was so much fun because it's like, oh my god, I'm playing a Pictomancer, and I'm like, when I said that word, you're like, what the heck is a Pictomancer? It's literally an artist that makes their drawings come to life to beat the crap out of the enemy,
That's so cool.
and and they just do it so well in the design of of the characters and the storytelling. Um, raid. I told you, there's raids that come out almost
Mm-hmm.
every other mid update,
Mm.
and these raids are you get what happens. It's like what happens when you get a team of six. I think it was 16 or whatever have you, and you throw them into a pool with one boss. It becomes chaotic. It becomes hard to figure out where you are in a cluster truck of people. But it's so rewarding when you beat that boss. You're like, yes, I
Yeah.
did it.
Yep.
But being able to start a new saga, a new chapter in this game's life in a new frontier setting, it was just like so spectacularly done.
Mm-hmm.
Like the first half, I was of the DLC, it was this tournament of power essentially for a throne. Then in the second half, it's like, where did this all come from?
Mm.
And it's like, how do we stop it? We stopped it. Now I had the new update that happened previously. Something else is now stirring. So it's always that story revolving door that's keeping you on your toes, wanting that extra mission. Be like, you see that title screen to come up. It's like to be continued, and you're like, son of a gun. It's like
Ah.
it's like they get you on that hook because it's like now you want more. And
Mm-hmm.
that's and like I said, it's not a new game, but it's a fresh of breath air to re-spark that love for the game that still drives it going forward. Because now, like I said, we're in a new frontier. We want to see where the story goes now.
Yeah.
And
Go ahead.
go
Go
ahead.
ahead.
No, I was just repeating myself at that point. I'm like, it's like I can't tell you how many times like I've jumped online with my buddy Sandwich, and I'm like, yo, let's go do a raid real quick. And he's like, I'm with you. Or it's like, oh, I need help with this mission. He's like, I got you.
Yeah.
And
That's
that on command character class switching is so good. I can be a DPS to a healer. I won't do healing, but I'll give it a shot.
yeah, man.
But
I'm
it's
right
like that
there.
on command class switches is just that's how an RPG should feel like. That's how a
Yeah.
live service game should feel like.
Yeah, I'm right there with you, man. As a long time, as I mentioned before, World of Warcraft player, Star Wars: The Old Republic player, it really is great to have those quality of life things to be able to just hit fill in any role. So besides the story, as often with expansions, there's usually a new class, a new zone, new mechanics, new ways to play the game. What can you speak about any of the other enhancements the game might have had?
Um, well, they always retune or readjust certain classes. Maybe like a DPS character class isn't performing as high as maybe some of the other ones, so they kind of like give it a little readjustment. Or even like with the DLC, all characters were able to reach to level 100, and they got a new skill at level 100. And
Mm-hmm.
it also their skills evolve as they go on and on and on. So like one skill is like a basic AOE. Now it turns into an AOE that does fire damage. Now it's I can summon an automaton to go in and smack a boss with extra DPS attached to it. So it's
Okay.
like it's always the combat is always ever evolving depending on the situation, and the characters always feel good at their core values, but can also be like, what else can I do? How much more
Hmm.
AOE stuff can I do? How else can I help my teammates being able to survive, to take damage, to draw aggro? So the game is always evolving around that central of what can the player do without being broken to the point that the whole game just collapses in on itself.
Hmm. So you would say this is maybe the best expansion or the best the game has ever been, period?
That's very hard to say because all their expansions have always been really good.
Mm-hmm.
I've started back with Heavensward, and I always enjoyed it. Um, but to my knowledge, I don't think I've ever heard anybody say that the game was ever in a bad spot.
Mm.
There might have been always where it's been quiet, like a drought, because everyone either you're just caught up to that point where you're just
Mm-hmm.
waiting for that next mid patch to
Yep.
do more.
Yeah.
But if you skip, like if you do one or two skips, you have so much more content that you can do to fill in that void.
Mm-hmm.
So it's always that game where, like any other live service, if you're caught up, you're gonna be bored a little bit because you have nothing to feed off of.
Yes. Yeah.
But if you leave to come back, you have so much more range to go forward, to go do these missions, to catch up to where everybody else is.
That's how I play World of Warcraft. I'll play like the launch of the expansion, then I'll come back like a month before the next expansion, and I'll have that's what I did the last expansion, literally like 50, 60 hours worth of content to just plow through at my own pace, which I prefer to play that way than like you said, waiting, oh my gosh, where's the content? I'm bored. It's like it's why I play other games, but good stuff there, man. I did not expect you to pull that for number one. That's quite a surprise. I thought you would have Destiny in your top three as well, but
Well, like we said, we touched up on Destiny. It's like the final expansion was that final hurrah send off, but at the core
mm-hmm,
value, it was still Destiny.
mm-hmm,
There was nothing besides the new subclasses, the prismatic and stuff like that. There was nothing
true,
redefining of what the game is at
mm-hmm,
its core, which is
mm-hmm,
why, like when you say, "Hey, what's happening in Destiny?" and I'm like, "Oh, this happened," and it's like, "Oh, cool, I'll jump back on to do the story." That in itself is not enough to wanting to bring more players back. Like I
true,
said, like we keep saying back and forth, everybody's waiting to see where Frontiers takes us because they want that redefined and they want
mm-hmm,
people are saying, "Oh, we need a Destiny 3." Some people are saying we
mm-hmm,
just need a 2.5. We just need Destiny to be reforged,
yep,
something different. Which is
yeah,
why you and I started talking about the mobile version. It looks and feels like Destiny, but at the same time, it's more
mm-hmm. Which
because
is
it built
crazy for a
because
mobile
it
game.
doesn't because it's one, it's a mobile game. Two, there's stuff that's in there that's like, I really wish I could do this. I wish that I could do this in Destiny, but I can't, unfortunately.
And that brings us to my game of the year. And it's a game that has been mentioned, I believe, once for the last over 2 hours of this podcast, and that is Indiana Jones and the Great Circle. I actually can't believe that this game, and we had two Lucasfilm games published with Outlaws and with this. I'm shocked that I'm saying Indiana is my game over Star Wars Outlaws, for reasons, obviously. But, like, seriously, this game kicks so much ass. Like, the last time I played this game, I stayed up till like 4 a.m. playing this game because I haven't done that since I was in high school with World of Warcraft, but I was so enthralled with the story. I wanted to keep seeing what was happening, what was going on, and it was just absolutely incredible. It's like watching a movie half the time. But I don't know in recent memory if there's a game studio that was better positioned with a existing IP to bring that to life because I think it was either Johnny or JT saying like rather than looking at the character, you feel like you're Indiana Jones. You feel like you're playing the character, whether it be him talking to, Gina when you're solving the puzzles and like the timing of the narration of Troy Baker of the voiceovers. Perfect. I was waiting for a moment somewhere in the story for him to just go ahead and like not sound like Indiana at all, but he never misses a beat. He never misses a beat. This guy just absolutely nails it. From the first moments of like the tutorial, I'm like, oh my gosh, are they actually like recreating this part of one of the famous movies? Like, and you actually are doing it, and it's incredible. And I like how much content there is here. This game can be played any way you want. You could play it really quick, just through the main story, get through the game in probably maybe 8 hours or something, or you could play it like me. I don't have a timer on the Xbox, but I'm imagining I put at least 20 hours into this game because I was really going through, leaving no stone unturned. When you go to Vatican City, it opens up and you have all these little, you have the field missions you could do, the field tasks, whatever they're called. Then you have the mysteries. I actually felt compelled to do all those things because I was having so much fun doing it. It's just because I was doing a checklist. I was actually immersed. I was like, oh, I want to see what's happening over here. Or the level design is amazing, right? Like you're going around, oh, you see like these guards over here, but then there's this like little side door that you can go in, or you can swing your whip and get up above the fence, and then sneak stealth around. So it really brought me back to like games like Dishonored, where they really do benefit you from using stealth. But then when you get into the combat is so Indiana Jones. It's like Indiana Jones, he gets caught up in those scruffles, he's going to grab the nearest object to give him an advantage to beat somebody down. So there's moments where you're beating somebody down with a freaking guitar, smashing it, breaking it over the guy's head. And there's some cartoony element to it. And that fits perfectly in line with Indiana Jones at its heart as like a serial back from like the 1950s. Like this is a lighthearted, kind of fun romp. From a story perspective, this is easily a top three Indiana Jones story. Like this might be my number two Indiana Jones story behind like The Last Crusade. I might like this more than Raiders of the Lost Ark, which might sound like blasphemy to some people, but it like that story towards the end where it goes, the places it brings in like real history into the fictionalized version of Indiana Jones just absolutely left my jaw to the floor. Performances of the characters absolutely amazing. I love the amount of ecosystems you visit, whether it be in the beginning like South America, to Egypt, to like Johnny said, like you go to the Himalayas. I don't want to spoil anything else since you guys haven't played through it, but I will say you will be very surprised, like I was, the places that has you going. But it just really feels like the most authentic, like game to movie adaptation you could ever make. In that Machine Games understood the assignment. These guys have dealt with World War II games before, obviously with Wolfenstein. They've modeled a bunch of people getting shot and punched like Nazis, right? Like that's their thing. So to see them, I feel like this is their magnum opus. I really like their Wolfenstein games, but I think this is where they even excelled higher than those games in ways because just the way that this thing feels, the way it made me feel, right? There's some really good gut punch moments where you're like, damn, like I really feel for that character or this. But the exploration, the fact that I am Indiana Jones, I'm going through these crypts, solving these puzzles, feeling like a badass. There's some supernatural elements in the game, which, bring it back to what Indiana Jones is about. But it's telling a very important story in his life as well. And I think that's what's super good is just getting the details right, getting the details right. I want to go explore, and the first person perspective is perfect. I was also like Johnny, I was a little skeptical going in, like, oh, I don't like the idea that I can't see Indiana Jones, but they show you him plenty of times. I mean, whether it be, I like how they cleverly like show you swinging with the whip. They automatically pull you out. It feels so natural when you're climbing all the things you get to see around. It feels like Hitman at certain points where you can get disguises, you can get into certain areas and do things that way. But picking up the artifacts and like rotating them around in your hands, looking at them, picking up letters and reading about. This is where I talk how it being immersive. Reading letters of like a son to his mother or something, and random stuff, solving the puzzles by looking at these things. It all felt very authentic, and the world building was absolutely fantastic. The music, everything about this makes this the best Xbox game that has come out since Psychonauts 2. Hands down, this is the best Xbox game we've had in 3 years. And I certainly wasn't expecting that from this game. Like this should be a tentpole Xbox series going forward. I hope that Xbox has greenlit Wolfenstein to do at least another two of these games, make it a nice roundabout trilogy. There's so much space for Indiana Jones stories. They're just playing in between Raiders and The Last Crusade, but they could go before, like, maybe like Temple of Doom days or something. Like, there's so much potential. And this feels like unlike any other game out right now. It feels so original, whether it be the first person perspective to the cool puzzle solving, the pacing of how this game works. The action sequences are absolutely incredible. Johnny, you haven't gotten to the ones that I'm talking about, but they are just absolutely crazy where you're going, oh my goodness, how did we get here? What the Machine Games guys, these guys are freaking amazing with what they pull off in this game. So, yeah, I absolutely love this game. They have DLC coming out at some point, so I'll definitely be playing that. I already upgraded. This is on Game Pass. I could have just played it for nothing, but because JT was playing it one night, I was like, well, crap, I should probably fork down the cash because everybody's talking about how good the reviews are, and I was like, all right, I can't feel left out. Plus, it's included with the DLC, paying the extra $30. I think it gives me access to the DLC anyway. And it gave me the cool costumes from Temple of Doom. So half the time when I was like in the hot environments like Egypt and some other places you go to later in the game, I had the Temple of Doom, like the cut off sleeve, like raggedy look, and it was this is awesome, this is badass. So I don't know if you have anything else to say about this, JT or Johnny, but yeah, that's my game of the year.
I think you hit all the good points on Indiana Jones. Really something we weren't expecting much out of, but it surprised all of us in a good way.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Because Xbox, like, they had Hellblade 2, they had Call of Duty, which I really loved as well. They had Microsoft Flight Simulator 2024, which I still have to yet to play, but it's not like a game, right? That's more of a simulator. So there were good games out there, not many of them. But this one was like way better than anything that I think it deserved to be. So Lucasfilm Games, man, they're on a roll over there. Let's see more of these, and it's interesting, right? Because you have the Crystal Skull, you have Dial of Destiny, and those have been like lukewarm at best for the reception of people. But like, there's people out there that are playing Indiana Jones and they're going like, "Oh wow, this game is actually really really good." So it's interesting to see like what the younger generation would think about a game like this. Again, it's not a clone of Uncharted and of Tomb Raider. And at first glance, people might have thought that would have been a death sentence to be like, "Why would you make an Indiana Jones game like this?" But in reality, I think they're way better off for doing it because it stands alone. There's nothing out there that is quite like this game. It makes it unique, to give it its own flavor. So, all right. So we're going to do one last little quick fire discussion topic of what game we're looking forward to the most in 2025 from the games we know so far. Of course, we know like halfway through the year we'll know a lot more games. I feel like there's a good amount just in February alone that I'd be looking forward to. So I'll continue in the order that we're going, so I'll throw it over to JT.
Avowed. Still.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Obsidian, maybe they dropped the ball a little bit on Outer Worlds, but maybe I went in with my expectations geared too, too much towards Fallout New Vegas. But man, Obsidian has made a couple of my favorite games ever. So I'm gonna stick with them on this one.
Yeah, well, you took mine, so good thing I had a backup because I am also really looking forward to Avowed, man. Because Obsidian, these guys don't really do much wrong. I mean, they put out Pentiment, which was a kind of almost like an indie darling game where you're. I haven't played it. I want to. It's like something with like Bohemia or like the printing press and stuff like that. It's like this little medieval kind of game. But yeah, then they put out Outer World. They have this. They have Outer Worlds 2 coming out this year. They did Grounded. Like these guys, they're like the MVP for Xbox right now. They are really good with quality control. But from what I've seen with this game, oh my goodness, like the idea of like the freedom of how you want to play the game. I could be a guy that goes around with a like a handgun and a spell book, and I could just go, And if I didn't want to do that, guess what? I could switch my spec on the fly. I could have two different weapons at any point. There's companions in the game that I'm pretty sure you could make light and dark choices in this game. It's everything you want from an RPG, like point blank. Like and it's first person, although you could play in third person, but the game's really made to be just first person. So I'm looking forward to that because as somebody that's been playing Dragon Age for almost 40 hours now, the third person action is really, really cool, but at least with Avowed, I'll have a whole different perspective, literally. The world is based in Pillars of Eternity, which I have no experience in. I forget the name of the world that this is in specifically, but it's in that same universe. But yeah, I'm right there with you, man. I'll most likely be playing this game day one, probably. I mean, it's gonna be on Game Pass, so we'll see about that. But yeah, does anybody else have anything to say about Avowed?
Nope.
All right, over to you, Johnny. What's your most anticipated game of 2025?
I am looking forward to what Hugo Martin over with ID and Bethesda is
Oh,
going to release with Doom: The Dark Age.
yeah.
I am extremely excited for that. I've been a huge Doom fan since I was a little kid, playing the first Doom game on my little Game Boy Advance. Um, the newer rebooted series that they've come Doom Eternal has
Mm,
just been phenomenal, non-stop violence, ripping and tearing through demons as it should be. So this one I'm looking forward to. It's going to be interesting to see because it's a little different. They're going
mm,
back in time now, so it's supposed to be. I'm assuming how he became the Doom guy. I'm not too sure, but medieval setting, some gameplay or what they've shown in the trailer, you could see he's got some sort of like big shield that he's
mm-hmm,
using. So it'll be interesting to see how they're going to implement that because the way Eternal was with constantly being in the heart of the action, needing to use your equipment to refill on armor or ammo and
mm-hmm.
whatnot, it's going to be interesting to see something new added to the mixture and how that changes everything. But they've yet to let me down personally. The soundtracks even have been phenomenal. I know the guy was Gordon, I think was his name or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
He's not going to be with them, unfortunately. But I still got high hopes that whoever they hire or find, he's going to be able to make some awesome soundtracks for that game.
Mm-hmm.
I'm already calling it now. It's going to be my game for 2025, game
Yeah,
of the year.
there we go. That's another Xbox game, right? We got Avowed, which is out in February. I feel like Doom: The Dark Ages could be like a big spring game, perhaps. The fact that they showed it so early already, so I'm looking forward to it because I love the weapon design of like splintering the skulls to like use as a different weapon and whatnot.
Yeah, that
That's
looked
awesome.
awesome.
That's really cool. That's really cool. I'm gonna throw it to Josh.
Um, I want to say my game for 2025 will be Monster Hunter Wilds. I played the beta when it or the network test beta for it. I enjoyed it. Um, I was happy to be able to play crossplay with some of my PC friends. So I'm definitely happy about that feature being added after a long-awaited time because World didn't have it, Rise didn't have it. Surprisingly, when it got ported over to the PC after being, I think, on the Nintendo Switch launch only at first, um, and being able to have crossplay to play with friends on both consoles and PC. It's gonna just make the game so much more easily accessible to people and enjoy it more often with friends of other consoles and generations. I'm also looking forward to the monsters that they're bringing in, and I'm hoping to see definitely some new ones, and hopefully maybe some older foes I have faced back in World. I know one of the monsters that's making a return is Nergigante, and
Oh,
I love Nergigante's design. He is a porcupine goddamn dragon. He and when he was in there, mm, he was a dragon. He does not sit still. He will catch you in the middle of a healing pot. He's like, I see you healing. You're not getting away with that, and he pounces on you. And it is just so much fun when you're able to just slam him in the face and any monster for that matter, to break their parts, to get the materials, to craft more weapons and armor out of their parts. So this Monster Hunter Wilds will definitely be a game for me to put on a list next year to say it will be within my top five. Hopefully, it's going to be my top one, but I definitely think Monster Hunter Wilds is going to be an eye opener for a lot of people, especially with it being more accessible with crossplay.
Yeah,
what's
another.
your
Yeah.
what's your main weapon type?
Ooh, that depends on who I'm fighting, but my fallback is definitely the longsword. I definitely like being able to, especially with the features that they're adding, where you can inflict wounds to create even
Mm-hmm.
more openings on monsters, which is a good new feature that they're going to add. Um, Weapons like the longsword, the dual blades, something that's going to be able to do a lot of cuts to a monster to give your teammates more
Mm-hmm.
openings to mount. And I know that a lot of my other friends who were glaive mains didn't like the network test because of how they did the glaives with not being able to jump back into the fight once they were thrown off the monster. Now they reverted that change. Now the glaives are back in action to be able to be that pestilence in the sky for any type of flying monster.
Huh.
Um, but I love bringing a good old long sword or even the hammer. Tell me you want that monster to have a concussion. Job's done. He ain't getting away. And I'm definitely gonna enjoy having a friend, buddy of mine. I call him Spots. He likes playing the horn, and he's always didgeridooing it, meaning he's gonna be smacking that thing with a horn, giving us buffs, giving us more damage protection, more debuffs to the monster. So it's definitely going to be able to feel nice to have a good component of different variety of weapon users. And also the one thing that they didn't do that they do now is seamless drop in drop out for hunts. I could be out in the open and shoot up an SOS flare. The game's going to send me a couple of AI monster hunters, but the moment that a player is found, they'll tag out an AI player and they'll bring in that hunter.
Oh.
And it's and being the one thing that I hope to see is the fact if I'm in a hunting party, I can go out into the wild with my hunting party. I don't have to be stuck in my own instance and then have to shoot off an SOS flare to get my
Uh.
friend involved. I'm hoping because that wasn't part of it, but I'm hoping that a lot of other people saw that and say the same thing where it's like I want to be able to be in a party, go out into the wilds with my party without having to worry about sending an SOS flare to get not my friends, but get three randoms instead because my
Hmm.
friend had to wait for so long to join the quest or had difficulties finding the quest.
Hmm. Yeah, I have no experience with Monster Hunter. I don't know if I'll ever try it, to be honest with you. It's just, it looks fun. And I definitely can see why people would love it because of just the idea of going around, like you're saying, Josh, in a party, hunting down different creatures. Um, So the big difference between this and Worlds is, well, obviously it's on a new generation of hardware, so it looks better, probably
Yep.
performs better.
Um,
Um,
it's got the combination of the combat of World, but the mounting system of Rise.
okay.
So a lot of people like to be able to call your mount on a dime and go track down this monster. But Rise's combat system was a little janky, but it was reversed for World. Combat was really smooth and buttery, but you couldn't get a mount unless you did like a bunch of
Hmm.
side quests to get that unlocked as an ability
Oh,
for the
okay.
zone.
Yeah,
Okay.
so this one is a lot more. You have the mounts, but this one's a lot more similar to Worlds. Um, you have slower Monster Hunter games, and you have faster ones. Rise was one of the faster ones.
Hmm.
This is another slower one, similar to Worlds. Um, it
Okay.
it it they're good games.
Mhm.
I put a lot of time into Worlds.
Hmm.
Um, it's very niche to get into. You have to you have to definitely dedicate the time and patience
Hmm.
to get into it and comfortable with it. You
Yeah.
know, it can be overwhelming at first, but it's definitely worth it if the interest is there.
Hmm. And for me, my most anticipated game is Grand Theft Auto 6. Yeah, if it comes out this year, I know people say that Rockstar has a tendency to delay games at least once or twice before they come out, but just the epic nature of the event of a game like this magnitude, right? Rockstar only ever works on one game at a time. Last release was Red Dead Redemption 2, which is one of my favorite games of all time, with Grand Theft Auto 5 as one of my favorite games of all time. Just that story of changing between the three different characters was awesome. But yeah, I'm really looking forward to diving in because these games always push the limits of like what games are, like the open world nature of just all the pedestrians walking around, the voice acting, everything about them is so over the top. I never really dabbled in the GTA Online. I was always mostly, I just want to be in my own world, do my own things. I hope that they make online better because when online first came out, and I was playing this game on the 360 in GTA 5. That's how far back this game goes. The GTA 5 on the 360, the online wasn't like really working right and different things. It was all messed up. But like I remember it was an event. Like that was the last guys. That might have been the last midnight launch I ever went to. I was in college at the time in South Jersey. We were all waiting in line for GTA 5. I have the poster for it somewhere I got at the midnight launch. And then I remember going to like a random college party, and the game was big when like you go to just like some random party, like they're just playing the game on like this big TV screen. Everybody's drinking and everything else. Like, this is big. Like the other day, I was in line at GameStop getting a present for somebody. Guy in front of me picks up a Series X. The first thing he asks for is, "Oh, give me GTA." Like this game is the culture zeitgeist. Like everybody that's not even a mainstream, people that aren't even gamers know about Grand Theft Auto. Like this game, everybody knows about. So the idea that the latest and greatest for over a decade since the last release, like I'm just looking to see like what they iterate on, because we don't really know anything about it so far. They gave us like the idea it's going to be in basically an analogous version of Miami. The trailer is pretty cool, but we don't know gameplay designs or anything quite yet. But that's part of the fun is speculation and getting into what we might be playing. And one thing's for certain, if this game's coming out, let's say fall 2025, that there's not going to be any other game that's going to want to release anytime anywhere near this game because everybody's going to be playing this game. So that's my most anticipated game if it still holds for 2025.
Big if.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Josh, what do you have to say about GTA 6, man?
I couldn't. I props to everyone that plays it. I've tried on like I think 2 or 3 different attempts to get into it. Um, I definitely didn't enjoy it online only because you can only get into at that time when I was trying it. You can only do open lobbies, and what's the first thing people see when they're like, "Oh, look, it's a new player, get him." And I'm like, I can't. It's like, and I'll be trying to play my buddy Dov and his brother Joe, and it's like we're just cruising around doing our own thing, and it's like it's like I got a target on my back. It's like somebody's going after us 24/7, and it's not enjoyable for me. They might like it because it gives them a challenge for like PvP purposes, but it just turns the game away from me. Like I can't do that. I can't be targeted all the time while I'm just trying to enjoy the game with the friends.
Mhm.
Um, but overall, I don't think I ever got into an early age of starting to play GTA to actually really enjoy it. Um, I was more of the Saints Row kind of person where
Mhm.
it was GTA in a sense, but it was more cartoony-ish, where it wasn't meant to be like taken serious. It was more of like a gag
Yep.
half the time, and so I was more into those games because I could just enjoy myself being silly and dumb and just have fun.
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah. So there you go. We did it, guys. Our game of the year for 2024. Some quick predictions for the next year. It's gonna be a killer year for games. Just looking at Xbox's lineup, we got Fable, we got Avowed, we have The Outer Worlds 2, we have Doom: The Dark Ages. Like that's 5 big games
I'm
right
surprised you didn't
there.
say anything about Assassin's Creed Shadows.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean that's on my
I struck a
list.
nerve. I saw that hand motion. I struck a nerve somewhere. I apologize.
Yeah, we had a discussion about Assassin's Creed the other day about like leveling and power levels of gear. And it's like, hopefully they learn like not to do that again because that was rather
I miss,
frustrating.
and that's primarily why I've turned away from Assassin's Creed. I've played 1, 2, the Brotherhood, and I stopped at I kind of lost interest near 3 and the 4 because everything started going into that RPG power stuff, and I'm like, this isn't Assassin's Creed. This isn't the game that I'm just. Here's your target. Go get him. Parkour. Go get him. Parkour. Go get him. And it's like I kind of turned away. So I would like to see this because it's in Japan, and Chris, you know me. I love Japan lore, history, and all of that. So it's like I definitely want to give this game a shot because of how much interest I love in that
Hmm.
country. But like I'm hoping that it doesn't stay towards that genre all the time.
Yeah, I mean, this is the number one location and time period I think that most players have wanted for Assassin's Creed.
Mm-hmm.
So while people might be getting burnt by the franchise, I do think a lot of people will give this one a shot. Now, I know there's a lot of people disgruntled about the certain characters you might be playing, which is just I'm not about that. Like I just give me a samurai, give me a ninja. I'm gonna go assassinate some people there in that game and having a good time doing it. So there.
If Ubisoft, remember who we're talking about, Ubisoft, can't guarantee a game that is as good or better than Ghost of Tsushima, this game might as well be dead quicker than Concord.
I don't know about that. I think Concord was pretty dead, like quickest dead thing in gaming history. But I do agree. I did completely forget about ghosts
Yutai.
and all that.
Yeah.
Yep. I
So,
but I do agree with that. As much as I want to say I'll give it a shot, I definitely think Yotai will overshadow Assassin's Creed by a long shot.
Dude, Assassin's Creed, if it would have come out for November, it would have done great. Like there was no competition. It probably would have been fine. But now it's going to come out in February where it's competing against 3 or 4 other games. Plus now it's got
Monster Hunter
another
Wilds.
huge, yeah, it's got a huge competitor with the other game coming out later in the year with Ghost of Yotai. So they're probably kicking themselves for like, oh crap, like we should just put this out in freaking November. Same thing with Avowed. Like Avowed moved because of Assassin's Creed. And then they both moved to like the same exact freaking date again. It's like, what is happening?
But once again, it was moved because the community was trashing on Ubisoft. Granted, Ubisoft doesn't have the best track record when it comes to certain things.
Yeah, well, like part of the problem was Outlaws didn't perform well, so they're like, "Oh crap, we got to make sure like this game is polished like no other game ever released because if it comes out with any bugs, we're dead."
Oh, yeah.
Basically.
Sure.
So, well, there you have it. That was our annual look at the games that were and the games that will be. So go ahead and subscribe to this channel if you haven't already for more videos. I do a weekly Star Wars podcast called Outer Rim Transmission. And yes, there you go. So a lot of Star Wars content, a lot of DC content, youtube.com/StarRaptor. If you're listening to us on a podcast feed, that's how you get to the channel. And you can listen to this on a podcast network. Just look in Outer Rim Transmission on Spotify or Apple Music and more. You'll find this podcast to listen to on the go, because I know this one is pretty long and just under 3 hours, but I do appreciate all three of you guys staying with me, staying the course on this very long but very, very fun discussion we had tonight. Now, JT, if you have anything you want to plug, social media or anything, you can go ahead and do that.
No, I take my distance from social media anymore.
You're better off with mental welfare for doing so, because it is not the best time to be on there these days.
Yeah, yeah. Swearing off Twitter was one of the better decisions I've made.
And I'm proud of you for staying off of it.
I will not be going back.
What about you, Johnny?
Not really much social media, but you could always find me on Xbox with my gamer tag, Chief Schwajwa, CHJUAZWA.
There you go. You want some good gaming pals to do good stuff with, man. There you go. Group up with y'all.
Come play Space Marine with us.
There you go.
And last not least, the one and only Hyper Hennick. Where can people find you if that's something you want them to do?
You can find me pretty much on like PlayStation, Xbox, PlayStation. I'm normally known as Fighter 2424. Xbox, I'm Ghost Hunter 2424. I don't really have if my Discord's the same thing. So if you have like you just want to spark a interesting conversation or just want a friend to chat with about certain topics, I'm always open. Like they were saying, mental health is good, and I definitely think that a random person to just get your mind off of things can be a little bit more helpful than somebody that's close, you know?
Mm-hmm. Well, there you go. So, for Johnny, for JT, for Josh, for Chris, aka Staraptor, we hope you guys were entertained by our thoughts. Let us know in the comment section down below what your game of the year was. But until next time, happy gaming, everybody. Thanks for checking out the video. Please hit that thumbs up symbol. It helps me know that I'm making content that you guys enjoy. And if you enjoyed this video, I also included 2 videos down below you guys should check out. And please consider subscribing to this channel. It helps support me and it notifies you guys of when I get new videos up on the channel. You can also contact me on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram @StarRaptor.